We be live. We be live.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Oh my god. That was
As
all right,
soon
that
as
was
you
good.
said we be live, it like lagged
Sorry.
for me. I was like, uh-oh.
Okay. Hi everyone in the live chat. We're gonna be covering the news. We're gonna have 10 news items about religion, atheism, secularism, some politics and culture sometimes maybe, but mostly religion and atheism. We have our fellow Christian here, like saying hello ahead
Fellow
of. Oh.
Christian, resident Christian.
That was Taqiyya, resident Christian. Okay.
Oh.
Music guy is here saying hi, Armin. Hi, Susie. And then we have to confuse people, Susie. Obviously, secular writer saying like, buddy, it's time for the news." See, like I'm telling you, people get excited here. Oh, and also PK, also confusing people, saying, "I am the latest messenger of God. God is sad that many are going to hell. Rules have changed. Just pay $100 to me and heaven guaranteed." PK, I thought you were gonna say like donate to Atheist Republic. I thought that's why I highlighted this. Okay, but it's okay. All right, so music guy is confirming that the idea is good and we're ready to go. Oh yeah, and somebody's saying, oh yeah, Christopher is saying 18 people have liked this video before it even starts. Yeah, actually you should guys like the video, because we're going to be doing a free service for you guys. We're going to cover the news for you guys and add our commentary and highlight your comments in the live chat about the news. So this is, if you like that, please like the video, because our channel needs to grow one day, eventually, maybe, perhaps. So if you guys like the video, YouTube will actually recommend our channel to more people and our channel will grow. So please make sure you like our videos. So that would be, it doesn't cost you anything and it really helps our channel. Okay.
It does really help the channel. And now that we're remonetized, the prospect of growth has, greatly increased. So we need to take advantage of that.
Yes. Why
Everyone
is
is
today
just declaring their prophethood in the live chat today.
Yeah, why is happening? Everybody's a god or a prophet today. Okay. So do we need to, can we get started with okay, let me actually share my screen before I ask you that question. All right, can we start with the first news?
Yeah.
All right, can we clap for the first news?
Sure.
Okay. First news.
Taliban orders government workers do not shave, must have a beard to work. On March 28th, the Taliban ordered government officials in Afghanistan to wear a beard and adhere to Islamic and Afghan dress codes. According to Reuters, members representing the Ministry for the Propagation of Virtue and the Prevention of Vice were patrolling the entrances of government offices to make sure that employees complied with the new rules. Government employees were also ordered to stop wearing suits and instead wear paran, a loose top, and turbans. Bilal Sarvari, an Afghan journalist, tweeted a photo showing men gathered around the entrance of the foreign ministry office who were not allowed to enter unless their looks matched the Taliban's demands. The Taliban also announced that parks would now be segregated by sex and all foreign shows would be banned. This ban includes the blocking of media outlets like the BBC, Voice of America, and DW News. According to the Ministry for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice, women will be allowed to visit the park for 3 days, while men can visit on the remaining 4 days of the week, which means that even married couples and their families cannot visit the parks together.
Okay, so men can't shave their beard, but this is not for all men, right? It's mostly for men that are working with the government for now.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, okay, so, and also parks, men and women can't visit together even if they're married?
Yeah, because they're segregated by sex.
Okay, what are you supposed to do if you're a married couple in Afghanistan? I want to go out and have fun.
Too bad.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the Taliban has the Taliban, right? I don't know what to say. This is insane. But it's still, it's as bad as this is, okay? So I don't know if you guys remember, and some of you weren't even born, this is not even close to how bad it was the last time Taliban was in power. But if things going keeps going in the same direction, we might get close to there, right? I mean, this is only the first
Well,
year.
that's what people are talking about. Like, this is a significant step closer to the
Yeah.
previous ultra conservatism, because although previously it was all men were not allowed to trim or shave their beards, all men were required to grow beards. Right now,
Right.
it's those who work for the government. So it is definitely a sign towards things growing more ultra conservative. And people are very concerned about that, including this announcement of the severe segregation on the basis of sex. And then what I found very significant is the blocking of these news outlets like BBC, Voice of America, and DW News, because these are all news stations that are publicly funded by, you know, the British government, American government, and German government. And this is significant because these news agencies are providing news content in Pashto and in Darcy, you know, to the most important local languages. And so it's news from outside the country that people inside the country can actually understand. And the BBC Darcy or Pashto program alone attracts like 6 million listeners very frequently. I can't remember if it was on a daily basis or a weekly basis, whatever. But you know, this is a very important source of information for this population, and now they're going to be cut off from that. So informational control is a very important part of, um, you know, establishing and maintaining authoritarianism.
Okay. So, by the way, okay. So, Susanna, what would you do if you were the Taliban? Okay, and you were like the part of Taliban that is now has is responsible for these decision makings on coming up with rules for Afghani people. Okay, and you have to decide between, because the Taliban is not just a unanimous voice, right? For people who follow us, they know this, right? There's many different fractions in the Taliban, and they don't always agree with each other. But there's a whole bunch of your members who died and bled for this eventual victory. And they thought that they're going to they sacrificed their lives because for the sake of an Islamic regime. Okay. And they're pretty upset that the leaders of Taliban are now talking to, like, having deals and negotiating with Americans, just like the previous regime. And they're talking about schools being open for girls. And, you know, they're like, what is, like, beard? Like, they think the restrictions don't go far enough. They hate the idea that, like, you're saying beard for just government employees. Like, we're supposed to have Sharia law. This should be for everybody. What do you mean for just for government employees, right? And they have, like, burqa is not enforced right now on everybody. Is still in Afghanistan, right? And I don't know, some Talibani members are saying, "Oh, we're protecting Shias. We like, we defend Shias' rights and stuff." And they like, "What the hell? What are you talking about defending Shia rights? Shias." They say these Taliban members would say Shias are our enemies, right? So you have this internal members and a whole bunch of powerful voices from within, which is the greatest threat to to Taliban's existence, right? Because as much as people think maybe the Americans are a threat to Taliban, or maybe other enemies, maybe, I don't know, some other insurgency groups within Afghanistan that are anti-Taliban might be a threat. None of this is a threat to Taliban as much as Taliban members itself that might be upset with the Taliban membership and not being Islamic enough, right? So you're looking at that, and you also know that you don't have money, people are starving, and if you don't somehow get recognized by the international community and start doing trade, and your money doesn't start flowing in, the amount of poverty and starvation will make people upset enough that they might actually start, like, rising up against you. And, like, at this end of the day, this is not going to be a victory if the whole world can see that you're not that Afghanistan is ruined because of the Taliban coming to power, right? So you want to also not make the rules strict enough. You want to make the rules strict so you don't have internal Taliban, like your own Taliban members, be upset with you. But you also have to you also you have the international community demanding that you respect women's rights, that you don't make the rules too strict, or else they're not going to trade with you or recognize you. Even even some of your allies are talking like that, right? So what would you do? Like, how, if your main goal is survival, what would you do? Like,
Yeah, you have to walk a very fine line. Very fine line. And you have like those two major camps that you have to capitulate towards, but they're diametrically opposed. So it's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not. Yeah. I just want people to understand that this is not that simple. Okay. I mean, morally, it's obviously horrible, right? What they're doing, but strategically, politically, it's Taliban is like they might see themselves being stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Anyways, I just want to mention that. So I also want to read some start comments, and then we could go to the next news. Unless you want to add anything.
No, that was all. Let's go to the comments.
Okay. So Eric is saying, guys, why aren't you using the current flag of Afghanistan? Why the old flag of Afghanistan? I mean, the new flag of Afghanistan is like the flag of Taliban, and I think, like, maybe, I don't know, I rather be sympathetic to the Afghani people who might not want us to recognize Afghanistan with the flag that represents the Taliban. I would prefer using the flag that Afghani people might feel like it represents them more, rather than just the Taliban part of Afghanistan. So I think that it's fair for us to use the old flag.
The Afghani flag is more recognizable to most people than the Taliban's flag. So it has to do with just like, popular recognition as well. Like how I still call Facebook, even though the parent company changed its name to Meta. Like, it doesn't have that recognition yet.
Yeah. People are saying, did I just say stuck between Iraq and a hard place? No. Okay. All right, Dad. All right. So next, Bobo. Bobo is here. Hi, Bobo.
Hi, Bobo.
Saying, how will women go?
I had the same question. Bobo. Bobo is asking, how will women go to the parks if they can't leave the house alone without mehram, meaning like a male family member as a chaperone? Is mehram still a thing there?
No, that's Saudi Arabia. I mean, maybe it was Saudi Arabia. I don't know if they changed.
No, there's lots of conditions in Afghanistan where women have to have mehram, or
not right now. I thought that was not
like
today?
For traveling long distances.
Oh yeah, for traveling long distance, they need that right now. Not for going outside. Maybe they change that later. I don't know. But right now, I mean, if you're just walking within your own city, they don't have that rule.
It also probably depends on the area. There might be like unofficial rules or things that some random Talibanis.
I think right now you need a mahram if you're traveling.
Yeah.
Not if you're going from your house to the park.
Oh.
Okay, here's another question.
Stormy is saying, with so many beards floating around, I suppose lice treatment will be part of their health employment, or their employment health insurance. Do people get lice in their beards?
Why not? It's
my
hairy.
Gosh. I've never had facial hair, so I've never thought about this. Oh my God, that'd be terrible. Oh my God. Can you imagine?
Yes.
So Bengali was saying, so mother and son are not allowed. It probably depends on the age of the child.
Yeah, you're right. I think like on Women's Day, if the boy is a child, the boy can go with the parent, with the mom. I think so. Yeah, you're right. I think the boy needs to be under.
Age that changes? Does it change when the boy reaches the age of reason, or?
Okay, so if it's in Iran, if the boy is under 15, okay, that's the rule. But the Taliban, they check if you have pubic hair.
Are you serious?
I mean, that's what they did when they slaughtered a whole bunch of people. They
Oh
had to
my
decide
god.
whether because based on the hadith, if you have like so in Iran, they cut the rules they specifically based on your 15th birthday, you become an adult. But the way that Taliban did it last time, they went based on the Islamic hadith, and in the Islamic hadith, when Prophet Muhammad's people when they were killing a whole bunch of um, I don't want to say it because YouTube might think like I'm saying it. People of a Abrahamic sect that are not Christian or Islam Muslim. Okay, when they were slaughtering them, they were checking whether to kill the men. Okay, so all the women were being sold as slaves, but the men, if they were kids, they were being sold as slaves, and if they were adults, they were being beheaded, right? So the way to check for that is that they would just check if they have pubic hair, right? Which is basically based on that standard, some 12-year-olds, um, could be considered adults and were killed because they're adult. If you have it, so that's horrible. This is Islam, I guess, right? That's how Islamic standards work. But
Talk about
Taliban
a
is,
self-report.
yeah, I mean, I mean, technically they are being very accurate based on if you want to make it based on Islamic scripture, um, Taliban is being very accurate. Okay, more accurate than Iran's government. Um, well,
Fatima is asking, will they check even for a fake beard?
yeah. Imagine if they say, okay, that's fine, that's allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do if you can't grow a beard? There are lots of men who can't
That
grow beards.
that's a yeah. Obviously, they would say that's fine. Just like Hashemi Rafsanjani, like that's okay. So, like the mullahs in Iran, they all have beard, right? Why do you think
Mhm.
Hashemi Rafsanjani um never had a beard? Hold on.
Presumably because he wasn't able to grow one.
Yeah, they call him a shark because of it.
Wait,
Kuse,
what?
which is yeah, Kuse
A
in
shark?
Farsi. Yeah, the people who can grow a beard, they call them a shark in Iran. And
Wait,
here,
why?
look, look. This is the only Iranian mullah who you never saw having a beard because he can't
He's
grow
got
one.
a little bit of stubble.
Yeah, but that's the
He's got
only
like a
that's
goatee.
yeah, but every other mullah you see in Iran, like, do
Yeah.
people not wonder how is this? How could this man look like this? Like every other mullah has a beard, right? So do people not
Wait,
wonder
I
what
need
happened?
you to back up and explain why it's called a shark.
Because sharks don't have hair. I think. I think that's the
Huh.
reason. I don't know. I don't think why that's the.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, we got a super chat. Let me just highlight the super chat. Thank you, Gagin American.
Oh, interesting. Thank you for the $2 super chat, Asian American. Asian American is asking, will they, meaning the Taliban, import CCP purge slash surveillance methods?
I don't think they can afford it. I mean, if they can buy, I mean, if you could buy the equipment, right now they don't even have enough money for food. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know if they can afford that stuff. I think
Well, I
Iran
mean,
would
and
be
I
more
don't even think
interested.
they have the infrastructure to support it.
Yeah,
Like something like
exactly.
only 11% of Afghanistan has access to the internet, anyways.
Yeah, like yeah. Why? How would they do that? Like, I think a better customer for CCP purge surveillance methods and equipment would be the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, this is a good question from D because I had the same question. D is asking, Atheist Republic, was a beard ever commanded in scripture or the hadith? Like, where does this commandment towards a beard come from? I know it's partially an emulation of the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay, so I don't remember if there's a specific commandment telling people that they need to put beards, but I don't remember. But I know even if there isn't one, technically it's sunnah because you have what Muhammad did. Everything he did is considered to be the right way to do things, right? You have to supposed to follow Muhammad as a role model, right? And he had a beard. Right? So I think that's good enough. If Muhammad had a beard, you should have a beard. But I don't remember if there's a specific instruction telling people to have beards. I just know that even without it, you just look at what Muhammad did as a role model. That's why some people put red in their beard, because there's at least one hadith where Muhammad did that to make themselves look pretty. You know, they just put red coloring in their beard. Have you seen that?
He put
Hold
red
on.
dye in his beard to make himself look
Right.
pretty. I think they use maybe henna.
Oh yeah, something like that. I don't. Okay, like this. Hold on. Look how pretty that looks. Like that. Yeah, this is a lot of people find
Fascinating.
this the right way. This they do this because there's I think there's a hadith that Muhammad did this. So
And I know that's
because
why they keep the beard but trim the mustache, because that's what Muhammad did.
yeah. So I mean, it does look good, to be honest.
It's so
So,
bright. It's
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
bright.
Yeah, some people want to, the closer you are to Muhammad, the better, apparently, right? So that's why some people do this.
Well, that's also why people take child brides, unfortunately.
Yes, exactly. Do people like? Okay, okay. Uh, guys, I'm not complaining. It looks good. I'm being honest. Okay, let's start comment.
Oh, yeah. Stormy was saying news outlets should just launch shortwave radio service. Good luck blocking that. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about how these news blocks on DW, BBC, and Voice of America might kind of give a resurgence to this method of spreading the news, which would be very interesting. I think people don't talk about informational control as much as they should, because it's one of the most important ways in like brainwashing a population. It's just denying them access to any critical information.
Okay, there's some funny comments in the live chat. I don't think I could read all of them because of YouTube restrictions and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so should we? Yeah, we are reading the FB chat. Okay, Joe is saying, are you guys reading the FB chat? Yes, we are, but we can't highlight every other comment, especially because of your last comment had something in it that I can't even highlight because YouTube might find it offensive. I am reading the Facebook chat, but don't expect me to read everything. Okay, here. Because you're crying, I'm going to highlight your comment saying, no, Redbeard is the best. Okay? There. Are you happy
He's a
now?
beast.
Oh, it's Beast? Okay. Okay, cool. Wow. Okay. Yeah, we are noticing your comments on Facebook as well, but I just can't read everything. Okay. Especially when you're asking us questions that had nothing to do with the current news item. All right. Can we clap for the next news?
No, this is like really bad. This is not good.
Oh my God. Okay. Next news.
So, next news. Nigerian atheist Mubarak Bala sentenced to 24 years in prison for blasphemy. On April 2nd, Mubarak Bala, the president of the Humanist Association of Nigeria, was sentenced to 24 years in prison for his alleged crime of blasphemy. On April 25th, 2020, Mubarak on Facebook said that the Prophet Muhammad was a terrorist, or he compared the Prophet Muhammad to a terrorist. I'm using coded language because of YouTube, but I think we all know what I mean. 3 days later, he was arrested. Prosecutors in the Kano High Court accused Mubarak Bala of insulting the Prophet Muhammad, which, quote, caused a breach of the public peace, to which Bala responded by maintaining his innocence and denounced the charges against him. Bala was not granted access to a lawyer until 5 months after he was arrested. In March 2021, a hearing was made for his charges without him present in court. His first court appearance was in February this year. In court, Bala requested to change his plea to guilty, to the surprise of his legal team. Leo Igwe, the founder of the Nigerian Humanist Association, said that Bala changed his plea because it because, quote, it was impressed on him by authorities in Kano that the only way his family could be safe was if he admitted that he was guilty. With Bala's conviction, atheists and humanists in Nigeria are now in danger of being thrown into jail just for expressing their views.
Okay, that's crazy. 24 years for simply, I mean, can you remind people what he said? Like, by the way, guys, this has been going for a couple of years. He had been held without any charges, without any access to a lawyer for a very long time. For a long time, he was even missing. People didn't even know where he was being held. And it was even difficult to defend him because there was not even any charges. And after how long they finally pressed charges? Like, how long did he was in jail until they finally come up with charges?
Like a year and a half. He's been in
Year and a
jail
half.
for like 2 years.
2 years, okay. And now they come out with this 24 years for what? What did he do exactly? For people who don't know.
Blasphemy, blaspheming against the Prophet Muhammad.
But what did he say? Like, I just want people to
So
realize how insignificant what he said was.
What I originally saw as what was so offensive to people was he made a post where he was talking about either a local pastor who claims to be a prophet or local radical violent extremist elements, and made a comparison between them and the Prophet Muhammad. So this comparison between the Prophet Muhammad and these violent radicals, was such a disturbing breach of peace. What happened was he made this post, and then it was actually a few lawyers who took it upon themselves to file a petition to the police. And so it wasn't even the police who initially took the first action. It was like these lawyers who just took it upon themselves to go after him. And so I remember reading it was the petition that these lawyers filed to the police, or at least was put forward in the public as the original petition, right? Like, I can't 100% verify it. And in it, they basically talk about how Mubarak Bala needs to be arrested. It needs to be prosecuted, because if it doesn't, then it will incite Muslims to do violent things. So basically, like, it seemed to me like a blame the victim argument. Like, he's the one who did this. This will cause Muslims to be violent. Therefore, he's the one that needs to be prosecuted. Which seems to me, if I was a Muslim, I would be offended, because that belies an incredibly low opinion of Muslims. Like, it kind of feels like a self-report. Like, that you are saying, we know that Muslims are going to react like violently to this, and that's why this person who hasn't done anything violent needs to be prosecuted and have action taken against him. And it's just evolved into this whole situation that we see to this day. And what's really unfortunate is that this recent announcement of his sentencing received huge coverage around the world. It was in The Guardian, it was in the Associated Press, it was in Al Jazeera. And based on the way it's been reported on, it seemed to me like this just happened out of the middle of nowhere in the middle of a court hearing. Like, again, this is my interpretation of what I've been reading, but it really seems like in the middle of the proceedings, Mubarak Bala just got up and was just like, I'm going to plead guilty. And his lawyers are right there like, what? Like, here we go. In court on Tuesday, to the surprise of his legal team, Bala requested to change his plea to guilty, one of his lawyers said. Just suddenly, he changed his plea and pleaded guilty to the whole 18-count charges. We were in shock. The lawyer said Bala might have seen the guilty plea as a way to end the case. Quote, it feels like he just felt he should just know his fate. He didn't know when this would come to an end. He may have thought that the guilty plea would lead to some leniency, but the judgment was harsh. And so, it kind of, everyone who's reporting on this case and everyone who's talking about it is talking about it in this sense of like, there have been reports that there have been threats against his family. I haven't been able to verify that, But and then either from prison authorities, from other authorities, or from these authorities telling him about how there are these threats and kind of like making implications, and just saying, you should just go ahead and plead guilty to protect them. Your family is still in Nigeria. We still know where they are. You should just, really close this case, because the Nigerian justice system is notoriously overburdened and takes an extremely long time to actually find the conclusion of a case. Not to mention the fact that he was already illegally held in detention for 2 years, but it could drag on for much, much, much longer, right? To actually fight this all the way through, because his case has been subject to repeated adjournments. And so it seems like he maybe just reached a breaking point where he was like, you know what, I'm just gonna say that I'm guilty. Like, I just want to get this over with. And again, the way that the Guardian reported on it, as if, again, this is reporting saying, maybe he thought that just, what, you're right, I'm guilty. I'll that'll look favorably upon me. They'll let me get off on some things. No, they threw the book at him, the whole 9 yards.
You might be, not knowing what's going on behind the scenes. I might be tempted to say, like, that's a very bad idea to do something and surprise your own lawyers, right? And make a decision in the court without actually discussing it with the lawyers ahead of time, right? And even, but again, we don't know what his situation is. He might be dealing with, you know, family threat issues that makes it impossible for him to even discuss things with his own lawyer. Like, we have no idea the amount of stress. And I mean, even if we made a mistake, though, like, we don't know how we would act ourselves under such amount of stress and anxiety, especially when you're not the only one who's being targeted, your family is as well. Like, it's just like, and after 2 years of being in prison for something like this, you know what I mean? Maybe at some point you just crack and you just like, I just want this to be over. I don't know, like, you just don't want to deal with the whole mess. But now imagine being like, I just want this to be over, and then you get told that, yeah, okay, here's 24 more years of you having to deal with all of this crap. Man,
It's
guys, this is
brutal.
it's so brutal. And by the way, I don't know if people understand how amazing Mubarak Bala is as an individual. Like, he is somebody who really cares about secularism, free speech, somebody who dedicated his life for humanist values, somebody that didn't hold back on what he had to say. And now he's paying such a heavy price for it. Like, this is not just like a random atheist that didn't, like, said something. I mean, even if he was, he would deserve a lot of protection, because this is not fair. But it's just even extra heartbreaking knowing that how good of a person and how much this man's tried to sacrifice for making his country a better place for more people. You know what I mean? Like, and now he's paying such a high price for it, and his family as well. It's just so unfortunate, and it makes it harder for other activists to consider this line of activism to make. I mean, Nigeria is such an important country,
So
especially
important.
because, yeah, especially because of the sheer number of people that are there, and the rules there is going to affect much more people than many other countries. Like Nigeria, I don't know if people realize that Nigeria is the seventh largest country in the world, like ranking based on population, just seven.
Mm-hmm.
Number one in Africa. Like, if you care about Africa, the most populated country in Africa is Nigeria, and it's number seven right now, but it's predicted to become number four at some point. So Nigeria, like, the rules in Nigeria is going to affect an astronomical number of people. And if this is the direction that they're going, like, as a secular activist, you need to care about Nigeria, because again, you have to realize uh, the policies that you're pushing for, the countries that you're taking into consideration to raise awareness about, the population of them matter as well. So Nigeria is like very high up there. um And it's so sad to see this is the direction they're going. I mean, religious tensions in Nigeria is something that is heading in the wrong direction, and it could get worse. And I just hope that eventually more economic, uh, because Nigeria is going in the right way when it comes to talent, education, trade. In that sense, it's going in the right way. But I don't know if all of this backward rules and the judicial system and religiosity is going to hold back Nigeria's potential. Like, so you have to understand, like, Nigeria has a lot of potential going forward as one of the leading countries in Africa when it comes to economic power going in the future. It could be one of the main contributions to saving the rest of the continent as well, right? It could be used as a role model, right? And when we talk about secular activism and free speech and human rights, it's not just for the sake of these rights being valuable because we want things to be fair and just. It's also because these a better human rights record, better property rights records, better free speech rules just unleashes the entire potential of a country in economic forms as well. Like, we have a lot of data to show that these rights being protected and respected um, is just like opens the gates not just to people just enjoying more rights, but also better trade, but
Prosperity.
prosperity and everything as well. So it's important to fight for your rights in so many ways. Like, even if you don't, even if you're an activist that cares more about people being hungry or people having more income and people living better lives beyond just their rights, even if that's what you mainly care about, you have to care about human rights, not just for the sake of human rights itself, but because also the positive consequences for a country that has better property rights and human rights. And again, Nigeria is very important going forward. Like, the amount of potential that is being withheld because of these. I mean, imagine how backward and how broken the judicial system of Nigeria is. They need to clean that stuff up, right? And you can see how religion is the main source of holding it back, right? So for people who think that we're exaggerating about the role of religion, again, you need to have free speech and good property rights for a country to prosper. And Nigeria is one of the leading countries in Africa that has an amazing potential. And the main thing that is holding that back is religion. So you can see by a couple of degrees of separation how religion is having such a negative effect on an entire continent. Like, you can't think like religious anti-religion activism is not important. It's not just about people being right about, I don't know, metaphysical, questions about the existence of God. It's not just that. It's also people's lives indirectly being harmed in such a degree. Anyways.
Yeah, no, those are all very good points. D is saying he's been made an example. Like, they're making an example out of him. The whole thing is unconstitutional. Yeah, from top to bottom, his rights have been violated the entire time. His lawyer says that while in prison, Bala has been denied access to healthcare, kept in solitary confinement, and forced to worship the Islamic way. Still, no matter all of that, he has refused to convert back to Islam. Like, incredible, amazing resolve. I'll remind you guys that Mubarak Bala was previously forcibly put into a psychiatric ward because he renounced Islam in 2014. Like, this man has been through so much and he's still stood up so firm in his convictions. And not only after going through that, that's when he went on to become the president of the Nigerian Humanist Association to really stand for the rights and the community of other atheists and non-believers, humanists in Nigeria. Like, just incredible person. And Dean at Atheist Republic Cape Town is saying, I feel numb thinking of this case. The shame of the African continent. Islam has to go. Now, this is kind of interesting to think about. Is we're very lucky that Mubarak Bala was actually tried in a civil court, because Nigeria does have aspects of the law where you can be tried legally under Sharia court and Sharia law. And he, being an ex-Muslim and being someone who was being tried in the state of Kano, even though his supposed crime occurred in the state of Kaduna in the south, he could have been subject to a Sharia court, which in that case, he would have had the possibility of the death penalty. So as horrible as this sentence is, we are still lucky that it's not so much worse. but it still feels sometimes like a small victory, right, in comparison to 24 years for a Facebook post. 24 years for a Facebook post. Armin and I were discussing when this news came out that that's actually worse than what Raif Badawi received in Saudi Arabia. Like, for comparison,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
ludicrous. And Eric Olson is saying, now it's time to put the pressure on Nigeria till he's free. He should not only be free, he should be helped out of that country. He won't be safe there. Yes, that's 100% true. If there is any means in which his sentence was somehow lifted or he was released from prison, he would need to be evacuated from the country and given asylum somewhere else ASAP. I've heard online from people who are familiar with his case, again, I cannot verify this, that actually at the time of when he made that Facebook post, that he was attempting to apply for asylum and attempting to escape Nigeria when this whole thing started. And for some reason, there were like aspects of that were getting delayed and getting stopped. But yes, he does need to be granted asylum immediately. I think if there was going to be I think Canada might have the best processes for granting him asylum before he's able to leave, because they have processes that they've put in place for Raif Badawi. But obviously that takes a lot of lobbying to the government. Christopher is saying, Armin, these rights sounded like abstract concepts until I made personal connections with people for whom they are not. Ooh, that's a very good point. Like, you really take these for granted until you talk to people about how just like the idea of like the rights to property and the rights to free expression or intellectual property, like until you understand what it's like to live in a society where you don't have that, you really take it for granted. Ibn Qayyim is saying the literacy rate in Nigeria is only 66%, one of the lowest in the world. Wow. And also saying Nigeria has a lower GDP per capita than war-torn Syria. Is that true? Even with all the oil in Nigeria, Nigeria remains one of the poorest countries in the world.
Okay, so I think this is a criticism of what I had to say, because I was talking about Nigeria's direction and its potential, given the population, given that okay, so statistically, the number of the literacy rate is low in Nigeria, but they also have some of the most educated people in Africa, right? So those are not contradictory points of view. Also, they have a lot of Nigerians that go outside of Nigeria. They end up working. They end up being some of the most talented people among the migrants, in, for example, United States, and they bring back a lot of talent back to Nigeria. Or if they stay in the country that they're in, they're sending money back a lot to their family. I just think that what I'm saying is that this is why I'm talking about Nigeria's potential rather than where it's already at, right? It is economically and trade-wise, it is moving, and education-wise, there's some really good investments being made, and there's some things that are moving in the right direction, and that's just the beginning of what it could do. And I just say, like, it is a country with a lot of manpower and a lot of untapped talent. Okay, so you're saying
extremely young population.
Extremely young population, and that's what we're saying. It's uneducated. That's why I'm saying untapped talent and hungry for education, and a lot of eagerness for it. There's a lot of what Nigeria also has is a lot of eagerness for entrepreneurship. A lot of demand for more, a lot of hunger for knowledge, and new businesses, and taking advantage of whatever the world has to offer. Like the eagerness is there, the mindset is there, the roadmap is there, the international interest is there, and the people there have shown that they are capable. So again, so that's what I was referring to. I'm not talking about whether things are already fantastic or not, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's so much that could be utilized. I
Yeah.
think it is very important to point out that, according to the Associated Press, the Kano state government denied any wrongdoing in the trial and said that the judgment could be appealed. So that's one news source I said about how, this judgment could be appealed. There could be further progress on this. I know that Humanist International is still raising money for his legal fund. I don't necessarily know what steps will be taken, but there is that possibility. And I did see people in the live chat saying that, we should go protest it at every embassy. I do really appreciate the impetus towards, really demanding that action. And this is a moment where we do need a lot of public attention on this incident and this event and to talk about this issue. I don't necessarily know if going to protest at embassies is the right move right now, because sometimes these situations are very sensitive, and going out and taking an all guns blazing approach can actually be harmful for the case. So I would defer to Humanist International, who is the most hands-on on his defense, about what kind of public approach would be the most helpful and safest for Mubarak and his family.
Yeah, so Susanna is not saying that this is not the right approach. She's just saying that we have to see what they tell us is the right approach. So
it's sensitive.
It's very the most responsible way of going about doing these things. One last thing, I also want to say that Nigeria is on the radar of all many religious and political groups as well, right? So Christians are very invested in Nigeria, trying to spread Christianity. A lot of Islamic organizations, Wahhabi ones, are very interested, and I know the Islamic Republic of Iran is very interested in Nigeria, and they have been very successful in spreading Shiism in Nigeria and they're growing a lot of groups in Nigeria. So given these religious and political groups recognize how important Nigeria is going to be, both politically and economically, and that's why they are investing there, ideologically trying to invest there. And that's why we secularists, we need to also step up our game and do the same thing, right? Because we believe that all this religious activism being directed at Nigeria is not good for Nigeria. So coming from outside to Nigeria, I think it would help if more secularists were also showing some interest in Nigeria and trying to help Nigeria defend itself against all these forces. Which, by the way, atheists, compared to all the resources these religious institutions and political groups have, atheists and secularists have nothing. So either consider donating to us or Humanist International, which they are the leading humanists. So if you're not comfortable with donating to an atheist organization, which would be us, we highlight these things for the same reason. There's also a humanist organization called Humanist International. You could donate to them. They do fantastic work. They worked with us in the past. They defended our members, but when we were attacked in Malaysia in the past, so we really appreciate their work, and we rely on their reports. And we know this is a professional organization, and we've seen how in the previous, when we work with them directly, we see how careful and how professional they are with what they do. So you could consider donating to Humanist International as well. They truly have an international perspective on things, so yeah. But yeah, you could also donate to us, link in the description. Give us the ammunition to go back to fight against. This is truly a David and Goliath situation. Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing how much atheist and humanist organizations, how much we can do with so little in comparison to religious organizations. It's incredible, actually.
Yeah. Oh, here we just got a donation from a Christian. Again, thank you so much, Bread of Life. We're saying I'm comfortable. What does that mean?
Meaning, because you said you might not be comfortable donating to an explicitly atheist organization. And this Christian is saying, I'm comfortable.
I'm comfortable. Oh, thank you so much, brother. That's very sweet. Okay, thank you for the $5 super chat. I really appreciate that. That's very sweet. Oh, look at this, guys. We have a Christian that's comfortable donating to an atheist organization. That's very sweet. Okay. Okay, cool. Can we clap for the next news?
Well, in general, there isn't a lot of news to clap for this week, but a lot of it is not necessarily someone died. So
okay, I'm gonna clap unenthusiastically. Okay. Next news.
Iran bars women from entering sports arenas once again. On March 28th, during an Iran versus Lebanon soccer match, security guards of the Imam Reza Stadium in Mashhad, Iran, denied women access to the stadium. A tweet by Radio Farda, the Iranian arm of Radio Free Europe, showed hundreds of women, some holding their tickets in hand, protesting for access to the stadium. Iran Student News Agency reported that more than 2,000 Iranian women were denied access. The stadium's administrators have not commented on this issue yet. Women have been barred from attending soccer matches since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. Global soccer organizations have put pressure on Iran to change their practices. Back in January, in an effort to secure Iran's entry into the 2022 Qatar World Cup, Iran allowed 2,000 women to watch a game at the Azadi Stadium. However, Iran quickly backtracked on its efforts, especially in Mashhad. Iran International reported that Mashhad is home to numerous extremely conservative Muslim clerics who are influential in barring women from quote-unquote male-dominated spaces. Armin, what is your analysis on this news? This was causing a huge uproar in the Iranian social medias.
Yeah, this has become a major beyond football. Okay, like the politics and the backlash to this has gotten to the highest part of the regimes. Okay, and okay, so just to give you some context, Iran, like there's a fight between the Islamic Republic, the Iran's government, and FIFA, because FIFA has been telling Iran that if you don't allow women into these stadiums, like there's going to be consequences. And a lot of women's rights and feminists and human rights political activists have been putting a lot of pressure on FIFA that why do you not challenge the Islamic Republic when when they're not abiding by your standards, like you guys are being hypocrite. So FIFA has been demanding that from Iran. And recently it seemed like Iran was like, because like the main religion in Iran is not Islam. Okay, the main religion in Iran is soccer. Okay, it's football.
True.
Yeah, so if Iran is not this would be a major big deal for Iranians, right? If Iran cannot participate in, I don't know much about sports, right? So but I just know that this will have major consequences, right? So what has happened is it seemed like Iran's government was starting like ease up allowing women in stadiums, and this was like a sport that a lot of women were looking forward to going into, right? And women in Iran have been very, because this is not just about women being able to go watch sports in stadium. Okay, like a lot of women activists are pushing for this because this is the battle for women rights, right? Like it's a symbol for everything, for women being able to be equal to men, right? There's so many, everybody who's coming out and saying like, oh, our sisters should be able to imagine to enjoy sports as well. Like the government is going after them, they're losing their jobs. They're even like for example, there was one of the soccer players that like, I wish like our female fans could also come watch us. And on TV, when they were playing his voice like talking about the sport, that part where he said that got cut, right? And a lot of people were outraged that that part was cut. Like a lot of soccer players, team members were singing songs saying like men and women are equal, and everybody should be able to enjoy sports, including women. And like there's songs about this, like this is a huge thing. Okay, and this like it used, I think a lot of people are focusing on women being able to be allowed in stadiums because it's a easier. It used to be just a couple of years ago, it was about hijab, right? Hijab being mandatory or not. Okay, but that is such a red line for the Islamic Republic of Iran because it was one of the foundational values of the revolution for more than 40 years ago, right? So I think this has become a more PC or acceptable, like it's harder for the Islamic Republic of Iran to make a case for why this is such a red line for us, right? Because it's not one of their foundational principles, right? So that's why a lot of women rights activism has centered around this right now in Iran, right? So a couple of other points which is interesting is that there's now these I don't know if you mentioned it because I was trying to write the points that I need to bring up when you were talking. Did you mention that these women were pepper sprayed when they were showed up?
No.
Okay, so by the way, you said that they didn't comment yet, but no, they have commented now. They
At the
commented a
time
lot
of
about it
writing, they hadn't
at
put
the time
forward
of
a
writing. Yeah,
statement.
I know. I just wanted to clarify that. Um, okay, so what happened was originally a lot of women were at the door with their tickets saying that we bought tickets, right? But then they weren't allowed in, even though they were told that women are now allowed into into the sport, right? So they barred all the women, and they were like, the women are like, okay, then if women were not allowed, then why do we have tickets? Why did you sell tickets to women? We paid for this, now we want to be allowed in, but they didn't allow them in. So a lot of people were outraged, like, you got their money, you sold tickets to women, and now they're not allowed in. And they were so angry, like they were banging at the doors, they were shouting, they wanted to be allowed in. And eventually they pepper sprayed them, and the footage of the pepper spray was outrageous, right? Like, this has become so, it was so disgusting. I don't know if I can show it here, that even a lot of mullahs came out and they were like, no, 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 this is bad. Somebody needs to be held responsible for this. Like, women were like crying, and they were like saying the strongest words against the regime, and they were burning, and people were looking at this. And these were women that were excited to come, like, they were so excited to come watch the sport, and they were met with pepper spray. They thought they're finally going to be allowed in, right? And even some government officials were like, these women were wrong. And now it seems like even some major hardliners, like, you would think like this would be a fight between anti-regime and pro-regime people, but it's like people are wondering why some major hardliners are coming out and saying whoever was responsible for this, they need to be like hunted down and held responsible, and they need to be punished. And people are like, who said, who sold the tickets, and then who allowed them to have tickets, who closed the doors to them, who's responsible for the pepper spray? Like, everybody, like, there's an investigation and everything, and there's an internal fight. And some people are saying, oh, there's no internal fight, and this is just a conspiracy theory to show that they're angry, but they're not really angry, because this comes from okay. So here's how this gets escalates to a massive degree. Okay, this all of a sudden got the conversation got to who's the next supreme leader. That's how high up this whole conversation got, right? Because because
Wait, what?
yeah, that's how much this escalated. Okay, okay, so this happened in Mashhad, okay, and the father of Raisi's wife, so father-in-law, right?
Yes,
I think that's what his relationship to Raisi is.
you're
Alam
correct.
al-Huda is the main mullah in Mashhad, okay? And people in Mashhad in Iran, they treat this man like a holy figure, okay? Similar to how a lot of people treat Khamenei, okay? So a lot of anti-regime people have been focusing on him, and because he's so popular and he's seen as such a sacred person, are trying to bring up this event and say it was him, okay? Because he has a video. I don't know if maybe I will show this video of him on Secular Jihadists talking about this man, talking about how the reason why women shouldn't be allowed in stadiums is because they get excited, and that's haram. He was basically like, you could see one of his Friday sermons saying like, if you look at men in stadiums, um, when they're watching sports, you can see how excited they are. You can see how, full of passion they become. And then he was asking people, like, imagine how the amount of depravity, how much the amount of, I don't know, shame that we have to deal with if women were this excited and showing this much passion in a stadium. And that would be haram, and that would be illegal. Like, imagine being exposed to all that passion and excitement that women were showing, right, in a stadium. And this is obviously disgusting and haram, and we can have that. Like, imagine the people who are pushing for that. Imagine how low and how uh, immoral they are for them to push for something like that, for having women this excited in public, right? And that video was circulating to say like, okay, this video obviously suggests that he is the guy that is responsible for spraying this woman. But then, first of all, the stadium, the people who were responsible for selling the tickets, they were like saying, first of all, these tickets were fake. We didn't sell tickets to women. None of
What?
these. Yeah, they were saying these tickets, like,
What?
they're saying there was only 9 real tickets that were sold to women by mistake, and all these tickets that these women have are not real. Okay. So that's what they're saying. And then they were saying like, the pepper spray was not our fault. The command came from a higher ups. Okay, so they were then like higher ups. That's why some people then went to a letter many years ago from Khamenei, from the supreme leader himself, and they're like, okay, this is Khamenei himself must have ordered this. Again, I'm not saying any of these things because a lot of people are just very loose and easy with connecting dots together. But I'm just reporting you what people are saying. They say there was a letter from Khamenei to Ahmadinejad, because I don't know if people understand, Ahmadinejad was a lot less pro restrictions than Khamenei. Okay, as weird and as Islamic and as pro restriction as somebody like Ahmadinejad is, he was for having women in stadiums. Okay, and Khamenei wrote a letter. There's a letter that has been leaked of Khamenei writing to Ahmadinejad many years ago when he was president, saying, what the hell, man? Like, why are you going against the teachings of marja, or a lot of like, do you not notice that a lot of marjas, like Islamic role models, Islamic role models, are saying that women shouldn't be in stadiums, and you as a president shouldn't be going against the teachings of marja, right? So there was a warning by Khamenei to. So people are saying this is the position of Khamenei. So obviously, if this is the position of Khamenei, this will not be tolerated in Iran. Okay, so in Iran, they like, but they also don't want to be kicked out of FIFA. Okay, or whatever. I don't know how the sports works there, but I don't know if you could get kicked out of it. I don't know how any of that work, but they don't want that consequences because how important soccer is for Iranians, right? So they're trying to like, they use the pandemic a lot for not having any audience for the past 2 years, just so FIFA couldn't like bother them. But now that the pandemic is being over, they're like, oh my god, what do? We don't want to let women in because obviously this is Khamenei's position, right? And Alam al-Huda's position as well. But we also don't want the consequences of being kicked out of FIFA is very important as well. But anyways, the reason why I'm talking about the next supreme leader is because we now finally are talking about another major contender. This is brought the discussion of Alam al-Huda from Mashhad as a potential, because overall we have always been talking about only 2 people that could be the potential next supreme leaders, which is Raisi, or Mushtaba Khamenei, which is the son of the current supreme leader. But now all of a sudden this has brought more attention to how popular, how big of a religious figure Alam al-Huda is. Like, we have footage now being shown to us of how much people how they treat him, how they venerate him, how high they look up to him, and how big of a following he has. And people are saying like, maybe like some of the behind the scene, this is like a ideological battle between different hardliners to see who has more of a pull over different people. Compare, I mean, if you look at al-Muhadam from a religious perspective, he's above both Raisi and Mushtaba Khamenei. So,
One
he could,
Khamenei himself.
and Khamenei himself, exactly, Ali Khamenei himself, right?
Is he actually
So,
Mujtahid? Do you know?
I don't know. I think he should be.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know, but he must be. I think he must be. I don't know. Somebody in the live chat could confirm. I mean, like, they made Mujtaba Khamenei a mujtahid like this just because he was the son of Khamenei. So I don't.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
even though it's supposed to be a very, very unique
Yeah.
and hard thing. Like, if you're a mujtahid, you're somebody who's like deciding the rules of Islam for everybody, right? Like, so okay, so that
Did
it
they
was
pull
very.
strings and make Ali Khamenei a Mujtahid?
I don't know. You're asking very hard questions right now, Susanna.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I don't know how that worked out. But those are very good questions. You're asking expert level questions, right? But oh, this is
That's right.
this is Alamul Hoda, by the way. If you want to see what he looks like, this is the guy. He is a significant figure right now. Okay,
I love
and
his statement that women being excited is haram.
I don't think. Okay, so I
Like,
think
what
like
does
that.
that mean?
I think the statement is not that woman just being excited is haram. I think like women being we men being able to witness in public women being so excited and
Yeah, like,
so passionate. Yeah, like being exposed to that I think that's what they consider as something degenerate, something extremely degenerate. Yeah, that's what they have an issue with.
fascinating.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, in isolation, the statement like women being excited is haram. You're like, excuse me, like,
Yes.
um. So
Um
there was some really good comments in the live chat. So Ibn Gayam is saying there was a documentary some years ago where when the stadium ban for women was in place, the documentary showed women even dressing up as men and sneaking into the stadium. Yes, this is
yes,
something
yes.
that's very famous. Um, and also verifying that the passion for soccer in Iran was huge. I
Yes.
remember a few years ago when there was an incident where there was a female referee, and every time the female referee would come onto the field, the Iranian authorities would clip that out of the live broadcast, and that caused outrage because it was interfering with people's ability to watch the game and see what was happening with the game. And so Armin was saying that if people wanted to cause the downfall of the Iranian regime, they would only allow female referees so that all the footage would be cut. And then, like, the Iranian population, out of everything, they would not stand for that and the regime would
Yeah.
fall. So I think this is
Yeah.
an amazing
I mean, this
time
is
to
how this is a joke though, but like yeah, so basically because Iranian TV cannot show female referees because they're wearing shorts and stuff. So I was thinking like coming up with a plan to just make all the referees for all sports female. So all the scenes would have to be cut, and then Iranian people really need to watch their soccer. So if Iranian national TV keeps cutting all the scenes because the referees are female, then the Iranian people would be like, okay, that's enough. We need to topple this government because we need our football or soccer, as you say it. So yeah, I think that would work. Just because yeah, just that's my plan. Musad, just push for this. But yeah, this will work. This is definitely gonna work. Yeah.
I have the answers. Um, cool. I think we should go on to the. Oh yeah, Rami is saying our society will collapse if women get excited in public.
Oh, here's because we want to value our Twitch commentators. Let's also do a Twitch comment.
Living Life 27 is asking, do the leaders in Islamic countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, etc., really believe in Islam, or are they just using it to control the population? Like many people in the Saudi royal family live Western lifestyles.
Okay, but in the Saudi family is different from the House of Saud and House of Wahab are two different things, right? So but in Iran they're both the same thing, right? So so I don't think you can make a general claim, okay, about the leaders. Okay, when we say Islamic leaders in Iran, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people. Okay, you're not talking about just one guy, right? And I don't think you could make a general claim about how much all of them believe what they're saying or not. Okay, and also think it's not even with one individual you can make a general claim. Okay, so it depends on the Islamic leader, and I think they all are different from each other, and the degree of sincerity is also different. But even with one individual, you might have an individual that is sincerely believes some major parts of Islam, but then some rulings that they're coming up with right now, they might think that's more political than religiously sound. So they might believe in Allah, Muhammad, Ali, Imam Zaman, all of that, Hussein, Zahra, all of that. They believe in all of that and they matter to them. But you might think like, okay, this whole sports stadium thing we're using that as leverage against these other hardliners here. Okay, so they might not think that there's any religious grounds for this, for example, but that doesn't mean that they don't believe in Islam as a whole. Okay, so you can't make a general statement. It really depends. We just got a super chat.
Yay, amazing. We just got a super chat from Misha who gave us $5 Australian. Thank you so much, Misha. Amazing. Saying, just wanted to say that I just joined Patreon and this is the best way to spend my Sunday afternoon.
Oh, thank you,
guys. That's so sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon, which is a good
guys,
reminder to everyone that if you enjoy our content or what Atheist Republic does in general, the way that we build the atheist community, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Link is in the description below. We would not be able to do what we do if it was not for our Patreon supporters. And if you join us as a supporter there, you get uncensored access to all of our sexy blasphemous art. I just released a new art on there today, which is one of my favorite that we've had in a while. So go check it out. And you also get priority treatment during our live Q&As that happen every Thursday. So please consider supporting us. And you can get all of this for as little as $1 a month. So thank you again, Misha.
Guys. Ibn Qayyim said, well said, Armin agreed. This is very great. Ibn Qayyim is a critic of mine, so he agrees with me here. So that's very interesting. So thank you for it's good to get confirmation from Ibn Qayyim when somebody. By the way, I really appreciate Ibn Qayyim's disagreements with me. So, so it's good to have you here. Anyways,
a well-considered criticism,
especially because he comes up with like a background that he knows certain things, so it's good to have that balance. Check on your some of the things that I'm saying here. Somebody coming up with like, actually, all right. Can we clap for the next news? Next news.
Indian restaurant in Bahrain shuttered for denying entry to hijabi woman. According to the Tribune News of Bahrain, the Bahrain Tourism and Exhibition Authority, or BTEA, shut down a restaurant after a manager refused entry to a woman wearing a hijab. Bahrain's authorities took notice of the incident after a video of a woman explaining what had happened at the restaurant circulated on social media. Lantern's Lounge and Restaurant issued a public statement on their Facebook page stating that the manager's behavior was unacceptable and that he has been suspended. The Deccan Herald, a Karnataka-based news agency, reported that the manager who blocked the woman was of Indian descent and that he had been suspended indefinitely. In India, persecution of Muslim minorities has become increasingly normalized in public life. Currently, India is grappling with controversies surrounding female Muslim students wearing the hijab in government-run classrooms, and many people believed that this discriminatory incident was a reflection of this anti-hijab attitude making its way beyond India's borders. However, the Independent UK, in an update to their article regarding the incident, said that the manager was British and not Indian. However, this did not stop people from throwing harsh criticisms against the supposed Indian identity of the manager.
Oh my God. This is racism or bigotry responded with bigotry. Okay. So we had anti-Islamic bigotry, which is horrible. And then in response, people responded with anti-Indian bigotry. That's basically what just happened. Yeah. So why did what the manager that was at the place? So this is an Indian restaurant with a British manager? Is that how?
Okay, so it is an Indian restaurant in Bahrain. It was originally reported that the person who did this discriminatory action was an Indian Hindu. And then it was corrected by the woman who posted on social media about it. It didn't happen to her. It happened to a friend that she was with, that actually the manager was British. Now, what is confusing and frustrating to me is as people are talking about this news online, people are repeatedly conflating nationality with ethnicity with religious background. So It's difficult to actually know some of the dynamics or group identities of those involved. Because just because this person, they aren't Indian or of Indian descent, and doesn't mean that they aren't Hindu, but people are just assuming because they're saying that they're British that this person is now white, which isn't necessarily the case.
Yeah.
It's just
When
a
you say
mess all
British,
around.
somebody could be Indian. Okay, so yeah, you're right. So people are saying he's Indian, and then people are like, no, actually, he's British. Well, technically, both of those things could be true at the same. Like,
Yeah.
like somebody could be a British like Indian, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. Is British British doesn't refer to ethnicity, does it? Like, you could be Brit.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So you could be British Indian. Yeah. Um. But yeah. So it's people just. But also, we have to be careful because I think like we also have to be very responsible because I think a lot of people even in our community when they would assume like when they hear news like this and they're like, oh, it was an Indian manager, I think a lot of people would be like, of course, Indian. That's you would expect that. You know what I mean? So we have to be careful not to set those those stereotypical expectation, especially because our channel is responsible for covering a lot of news about bigotry against Muslims in India. I want to be careful not for us to encourage an audience that all of a sudden expects that from somebody with an Indian background. You know what I mean? People like, oh yeah, you're Indian, so you're more likely to be a bigot towards Muslims. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to do to make sure that we're not responsible for that because we need to cover the news in India when it comes to bigotry against Muslims. That's the news that needs to be covered. Okay, but our constant reporting of that might encourage certain perspective on people that from people that we don't welcome, right? So maybe we could the way we could like fight back against that is by using a news item like this to be like, guys, just don't like, yeah, this was an Indian restaurant, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us would just be like, oh yeah, Indian restaurant kicked out a Muslim. how how expectable, right?
Well,
Um,
that's what was so interesting because this story, as we're covering it, is really like a story about a story. It's like a story about media analysis at this point because that's how it was originally reported on by everyone. It was like, look at how, this supposedly, reportedly Indian person has the gall to go out in Bahrain, of all places, and discriminate against a hijabi woman.
right.
Um,
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I wasn't even thinking about that. You're in Bahrain. What the hell?
regardless of who did it, the ethnicity or nationality of the person who did this, they had a lot
Wait,
of nerve. We're like, what were they expecting to happen
wait.
in the middle of Bahrain? Like,
Yeah, like isn't hijab like common in Bahrain? How would you? Was she wearing a niqab or something? Like, what was he thinking? Like, what was he exactly thinking? Can you like what happened actually? Exactly. Do we
it
know?
doesn't make any sense. What were you? Yeah.
Like, Wouldn't you have to like shut down the restaurant to like 25% of the women there if you want to ban hijabis?
It's so weird. Well, and also like the
Maybe.
the tourism and exhibition agency, like the restaurant got shut down over this.
Right. Well, I
And then
mean,
it got
maybe.
reopened, and the restaurant, is like having we're a night of free food for everyone to kind of like make up for this incident. Um,
I mean, it's not fair to the restaurant. You had like one stupid manager. I don't think the rest of the employees at the restaurant should be punished for this one manager, right?
yeah. Murtad Skeptic is saying, let's discriminate against the dominant group.
No, I mean, okay, so I don't think in Bahrain how many women in Bahrain? Like, I know it's an Islamic country, but how common is a job?
I don't
Like,
know.
I know this is not the best way to look for it, but if we search for Bahrain woman in Google Images, I'm thinking I'm getting a 50-50 split on hijabi, non-hijabi. Okay, now maybe like we're actually more hijabis. Yeah, I'm getting a whole bunch of hijabis, and I would think Google Images it would be. I know it's just not the scientific poll
The
or anything, but
authoritative source of Google Images.
but yeah, but you look at for Bahrain women, I'm getting more hijabis. Yeah, at least half of them are hijabi. So I don't understand. Like,
Mhm.
was this what this? Maybe this is not exactly what happened. Like, I can't imagine somebody
Mm.
living in Bahrain thinking like, oh yeah, no hijabis here. Thank you. In the middle of an Islamic country having a restaurant. Like, there must be some, like, either this person is like a complete idiot, um, or the news is not being reported accurately. I don't know. I'm not
Bulbul
sure.
is asking a good question. So, is it? What do you think about the government shutting down that restaurant because of this incident? Is that excessive?
I mean, they didn't shut it down permanently, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they did something illegal. I'm assuming discrimination is illegal.
Yes.
I think it's fair as they're enforcing the law. They're like, your business is doing something illegal, and get your act together before we open it. I don't think that's excessive by the government. Do you think that's excessive by the government? I think that's fine.
Um, it depends on the like timeline of events. Like if they shut it down even after they had suspended the manager, then I don't think that's fair. Like if the restaurant had already taken the corrective action and they still shut them down, I feel like that's not necessarily right.
Yeah.
But personally, I would prefer like a fine or maybe like an inspection. Um, yeah, it depends on kind of how things actually the events followed each other. Murtad Skeptic is saying it reminds me of that restaurant that went out of business after introducing their progressive new man tax.
Wait, we have somebody in the live chat not getting how the difference
Oh,
between.
Regsy Boy is being our local doo once again, saying British because I can't use derogatory language on YouTube. Saying is British is Indian. Are you freaking real? Believe it or not, Regsy Boy, there are people of Indian descent who have lived in Britain for generations.
Yeah, so you could be
Shocking.
British, and yeah, you could be ethnically, or national, your nationality could be Indian and British at the same time, or you could just be only ethnically Indian, born in Britain, and be British, right? If you're born, could have lived in your families for generations could have lived in Britain, and you're born there and you live there and you have went to school there, you would be a British Indian. So what's the I don't understand what's the confusion there. Yeah, here, random Buddhist guy is saying this.
Random Buddhist guy is saying that he thinks it was a British citizen of Indian Hindu ancestry. Okay, we have no way to
Uh,
verify this. Again, like I said, the news articles that I was reading about this like continually conflated all of these different groups. So it's very unclear about kind of the identity of the person who did the discrimination, who did the bad thing.
yeah, yeah,
Atheist Republican saying, I mean, Bubble is saying South Hall in London looks more Indian than my neighborhood in India.
Oh, this is yes, that's this is and that's actually a good thing for London, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is racist against the British, but they don't have good food. Is that racist to say? I
No,
mean,
everyone knows that the best food
the
in
national
England
dish.
comes from Indians. That's
Yeah, I
like
mean,
even accepted by the British. Like they
yeah, I
made tikka
mean,
masala.
like from all the countries that have like a famous like national dish, okay, like think about the British national dish is fish and chips, okay, like you needed India, like United Kingdom needed Indians, okay, if it's just for the sake of the food, they did need that, okay. um Ibn Qayyim saying Shia suffer from a lot of discrimination in Bahrain by the Sunni minority who control most of the wealth in the country. That's true. And that's why the Islamic Republic of Iran is trying to use the Hussein narrative to make them rise up against the authorities. This is why Bahrain is very afraid of Iranian influence. By the way, the
Yeah.
Iranian influence in Bahrain makes the oppression against Shia minority even stronger, because the Bahraini officials are afraid of the Shias because of the Shia Iranian influence on them. So, it's not working in their favor at all. Yeah. Um. Yeah. What is this? We can read this last and then we go to the next.
PK is saying Indians are not allowed dual nationality. Indians have fought for UK in the First World War. Well, Okay, I'm not sure about this. Is this a
Okay.
policy of the Indian government or a policy of the British government? That's not clear to me.
Okay, in that case, then you could be ethnically Indian and British at the same time. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe not. If that's
Well, that's
true,
what we
then
were
maybe
talking about in the first place.
no, but because he's responding to one of my examples. I give like you could be either ethnically Indian and British, or your nationality could be Indian and British at the same time. But apparently, that is if he's right, then that is not possible. Oh yeah, this is actually a very funny thing. The British, Bobo is saying the British colonized the whole world looking for spices, but still make crappy food. Okay, so the
You're going to
lesson here.
insult the national treasure that is Gordon Ramsay? How dare you?
Oh, actually, you're right. But that means that if you want good food, you need to be colonized by India instead of colonizing India. Okay, so that's how it works. Anyways, can we clap for the next news?
This is actually one where I don't think we should clap, just because it is kind of a sensitive issue.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Next, I almost clapped. Next news.
Next news. Local San Diego Muslim Imam survives knife attack called terrorist. Once again, I say terrorist for the YouTube algorithm, but I'm talking about, violent radical extremists. Anyways, in San Diego, recently, Sheikh Uthman ibn Farouk, a San Diego-based Muslim imam, was followed and confronted after his public preaching. The imam was stabbed after an altercation that started with the suspect verbally abusing him. Farouk has been preaching since his early 20s, and he is known to engage in conversation with both Muslims and non-Muslims on his YouTube channel. Farouk posted a video explaining the situation and announcing he is doing fine after the attack. Last year, a famous ex-Muslim, apostate prophet, invited him to a debate. Farouk did not respond to this invitation. However, Farouk criticized famous atheist YouTubers like Apostate Prophet for not condemning the attacks on Muslim preachers like himself. Apostate Prophet and other Islamic critic David Wood released a video responding to Farouk. Lieutenant Abin Sharkey of the San Diego Police Department said that the San Diego Police Department is aware of the video and is working closely with Farouk. The Council of American Islamic Relations, or CARE, San Diego chapter, condemned the incident and called it a bias-motivated stabbing. So I wanted to cover this story because this was something that was, a very big event. It caused a lot of outrage on Twitter and kind of the part of the Twitter community that's, ex-Muslims and Muslims going back and forth and interacting with each other. I think it's really important to talk about when there are these, bias-motivated stabbings or incidents of anti-Muslim bigotry. And I also wanted to talk about kind of the contention in relationship between Apostate Prophet and Sheikh Uthman, because I think that's an important part of this as well. Armin, did you hear about this event when it happened?
Yes. Okay. I want to talk about this in a responsible way. Okay. Because, as ex-Muslim activists, we might be motivated to jump on the accusation part of Apostate Prophet first. Okay. And I think it's important to address that, and I will address that. Okay. But before we do that, the main thing that we need to address here is the condemnation of the stabbing, right? Of how unfair and how brutal and how disgusting it is. This man, this imam, was peacefully inviting people to Islam. He didn't do anything that harmed anybody, and he could be, as far as we know, a genuinely good person. Okay, even if we disagree with what he accusing Apostate Prophet, that's ridiculous and stuff. But I mean, even if he wasn't a good person, this is still horrific, right? So our first, second, and third priority should be the condemnation of this. And because as much as we might want to say, like, we are against violence and we're just criticizing religion and we're not attacking Muslims, we have to be honest that our criticism of Islam could be misused by people who want to demonize Muslims, and it might lead to hatred towards Muslims as a whole. So it's very important that we constantly defend Muslims, their rights and their safety and their security, in parallel to aggressively criticizing Islam. These two, you can't just be like, I'm not advocating for hatred towards Muslims. I'm just criticizing Islam. I don't think that's good enough. I think, given that we know the effect of criticism of Islam on certain people, I think it's very important for us to advocate for the safety and the rights of Muslims parallel to our aggressive stance against Islam, because we know that our words, even if we don't intend it, could have that effect. Okay, so that's the main priority. I just want to make sure that we don't jump on the API accusation right away, because this is more important. Okay, and I think now, with that out of the way, we also want to talk about this ridiculous accusation of an apostate prophet. Okay, and I don't want to. It's hard for me to do, because we're now like ridiculing somebody that has just been stabbed, right? I don't know if there's are we being?
I don't
is
know
that
if
a
it's ridicule so much
I
as
am.
just.
I want to ridicule him.
Oh,
I just want to just
okay
say,
then.
like, I just want to defend him, but also, like, I wish you well. I hope you get protection. I hope you. I mean, I hope we appreciate the fact that you're against violence, that you're preaching Islam in a peaceful way, and that you don't wish harm upon other people. So we appreciate all of that. And I just hope me going aggressively against this accusation that you make against Apostle Prophet, I hope that doesn't take anything away from the fact that we wish you safety and good health, you know, and and we condemn anybody that wishes you harm. Okay, but this was a genuinely ridiculous accusation, and it just shows how so many Muslims who are against ex-Muslims, people like Ali Dava, and I mean, this man is like a lot more, I think, mature and logical than somebody like Ali Dava. But you can see even somebody like him assumes that ex-Muslims don't have really an issue with attacks on Muslims. I mean, and they're so ignorant about this, especially with somebody like Apostle Prophet, who has made it clear many times before how much he is against violence on Muslims. Like, how, and I mean, you're an Imam that is doing dawah, you're in the scene. How could you not know this? How could you go out and make an accusation against Apostle Prophet saying that he wouldn't condemn this? Like, do you not do research? Do you not know?
And
Do you not know?
implying that he's responsible.
Implying he's responsible, but like, do you not try to do some background analysis and information gathering about the person you're talking about before you throw out an accusation like that? Like, would you not think that's somewhat responsible? Like, would you not like to see maybe Apostle Prophet has already condemned people who are violent multiple times, and then you are claiming that Apostle Prophet is somebody who wouldn't come and condemn this, but right after it he came and clearly condemned it multiple times. So where's your accusation
As soon
now?
as he found out, in the video where David Wood and Apostate Prophet respond to Sheikh Uthman, what I thought was really funny was they were like, in the video where he first announces that this happened, he says David Wood and AP haven't condemned this. And they're like, this was like the first time I found out about it. Like, you said in the video that this happened today, and at the same video you're like, they haven't condemned it. Well, it just happened.
Yeah, but first of all, now what do you say? Now they condemned it, okay? And also, even before the event, they have condemned it. They have condemned violence against Muslims in general many times. But are you going to come and did he come and apologize for saying they won't condemn it now that they did condemn it? Like, are you not going to come and say, like, oh my God, I had a wrong assumption about these ex-Muslims, or like about these critics of Islam. I thought they wouldn't condemn something like this. I realize that they do condemn it, and I also now discovered that they have been condemning us stuff like this all the time. How are you going to come and say how wrong you were about your assumptions about somebody like Apostle Prophet? Are you going to mention that? Are you just going to act like it didn't happen? And now that you're asking for people like to condemn these things, are you going to condemn the violence against kafirs and infidels in your scripture? You know what I mean? Like
No,
look
he
at the
explicitly endorses it and works towards an Islamic state where he advocates for the execution of apostates.
yes. So
And he
look
will
at the
proudly say so.
look at the hypocrisy here. Look at the like. Okay, guys, I'm not doing whataboutism, because whataboutism is saying what we're doing that is wrong is okay because you're doing the same thing. Okay, it's not whataboutism when we're saying that no, both are wrong. Whataboutism is like A is not wrong because B has done the same thing. Okay, but if you say A is wrong and B is wrong also, that is not whataboutism. That is consistency. That is a demand for consistency and calling out hypocrisy. So don't confuse whataboutism with a demand for consistency and calling out hypocrisy, because this man is being a hypocrite, because he thinks ex-Muslims wouldn't come out and say condemn this, but you yourself are somebody who are actively and transparently and openly working for a state and being proud of the fact of getting to a place where people like me, who is an ex-Muslim, would get executed for being an ex-Muslim, right? And you're like, oh, Islamophobia. But look at the level of ignorance that we're dealing with. Like, this is why a lot of people, Muslims who hate ex-Muslims, imagine if this person with this level of involvement on online discussion is this misinformed about our position. Imagine the average Muslim. I mean, I don't blame a lot of Muslims for hating us if this is their perspective on us. If many Muslims think that when we're criticizing Islam, we're also people who wouldn't mind violent attacks on them, I would like, okay, now I understand why they hate ex-Muslims. Okay. And our job is to be like, guys, like, this is why Atheist Republic is also very much involved in defending Muslims' rights and fighting for their rights and defending their safety. It's for the sake of Muslims themselves, but it's also for the sake of showing religious people that our attacks on their religion is not at all suggests that we're also against them as individuals. Okay, to show that how we are able to do both. One person who gets it, who mentions it, who's very religious, but apparently understands this. Unlike Ali Dawah, for example, Ali Dawah on the debate with Apostle Prophet, he was like, so you're like, oh, you say that you don't want attack on Muslims, but your words are encouraging it. Like, what are you talking about, right? Like, Ali Dawah is saying that Muhammad Hijab thinks that, but Sajid, what's his last name? I always forget. Lipam?
Sajid Lipam.
Sajid Lipam is somebody who's, even though he's very religious, very fundamentalist, he understands that if an ex-Muslim or a murtad or a kafir or an infidel tells you that he is not for violence against Muslims, you should accept that. Okay, so I'm very grateful for somebody like Sajid who accepts that we're not for that. Like, he just, we're saying it. What do you want? What else? So I'm grateful. Like, even though I don't agree with his views, I'm grateful for somebody like we take what we can get, right?
Yeah, there's a few really important points that I want to bring up. First of all, secular rarity is saying, gotta say, Armin's secular humanist points have been 100 tonight. Secondly, Apostate Mario is saying Apostate Prophet completely condemned the attack, but I think his friend David Wood tried to claim it was a hoax. So I watched the entire 2-hour stream of Apostate Prophet and David Wood going over this incident, and this is something that I did want to talk about. David Wood repeatedly used language which is like, I don't want to make an assumption, but this is a little bit and like leaving the door open for we don't know about the legitimacy of this attack. And I felt that Apostate Prophet did a really good job shutting that down and going through saying, this is all the evidence that we have that says that leads me to believe that this is a credible, real attack, and we should condemn it accordingly. And AP also made a really good point saying, if something like this happened to me, I would hate to think of all the people who are against me, all the Muslim community going after me saying, this isn't real, prove it, this is fake, blah, 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 like how hurtful that would be. Right. So I thought AP did a really good job, like humanizing the situation and just talking about like, we have no reason to believe that this is fake thus far. We should treat it as real. We should condemn it accordingly and stop trying to put forward any sort of conspiracies to the contrary.
Yeah, that's very responsible.
I really appreciate Apostate Prophet for really holding firm on that. And he also in his stream gave a lot of evidence about like why he thinks this is completely real. Yes.
No, I wanted to just confirm what you're saying. I didn't know that would happen. Even if it is a hoax, we have no reason to believe it, and we're going to treat it as real until proven otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Ibn Qayyim is saying, Atheist Republic, Har Sultan made a video of Sheikh Usman mocking him for calling the police for being attacked after being stabbed. Disgusting. Is this true? Armin, you keep up on Harris's content a lot more than I do.
Well, not all of it. I don't know if this is true. Wait, let me read this again. Made a video of Sheikh Usman mocking him for calling the police for being attacked after being... Wait, why would he not call the police? I don't even understand this.
Okay, Ibn Qayyim, I haven't seen this. If that's true, that's completely insane.
But we don't know. I don't know if this is an accurate reporting of what Harry Sultan has done. So so I think the responsible thing, Susanna, is to say that we can't comment because we don't know the details. We can't comment on it.
Yeah. But if you get assaulted, call the police. And this question first. PK is saying these attacks by idiots on religious people is so stupid. It's so frustrating because it totally hurts our cause and gives room to these Dawa people to do whataboutism.
Okay. I'm PK. I have an issue with what you're saying. Okay, because your main concern with these attacks should be the fact that people are being hurt. Okay, that should not the fact that this is going to hurt our activism. I mean, that could be something that you're concerned about, but that should be way farther than your list. Okay, so you're saying these attacks by idiots on religious people is so stupid, it's so frustrating because it totally hurts our cause. I mean, it hurts the person who's being stabbed. Okay, so that is more important. You should be highlighting that first. Okay, so you should not, your main goal should be not wanting to see people being harmed like that, right? I'm not saying you don't care about that. I'm just saying, even if your intentions are different, it's important to be responsible about how we talk about things. And I think it's important to show that your main care and your main priority is avoiding harm, not just not just how this is going to be used by people who are ideologically against us.
Yeah. I do want to acknowledge that Ibn Qayyim asked a very good question about the kind of language that Har Sultan uses. It is kind of outside the focus of this news, so maybe you should ask that during the Q&A section where we can really dive into it, because today we have to be focused on the news show. But very important question. So the next story is not good and it's freaking insane. So just a heads up that we cannot clap.
Okay.
Next news. Female students kill teacher over blasphemy in Pakistan. On March 28th, Safura Bibi, a teacher at a religious seminary school in the city of Dera Ismail Khan in Pakistan, was stabbed to death by two of her students and a colleague. The attackers were Umra Aman, 24 years old, her nieces, Razia Hanfi and Aisha Nomani, 21 and 17 years old, respectively. The perpetrators are members of the Masood tribe living in Pakistan's federally administered tribal areas. Najam Hasnam Likat, the district police officer, said that one of the murderer's relatives, a 13-year-old girl, dreamt that, quote, the victim had committed blasphemy against the prophet and the prophet had ordered them to slaughter the victim. Police rushed to the crime scene after they were notified of the attack. They recovered the weapon used for the stabbing. They arrested the attackers in their homes hours after the murder. The victim's uncle said that Safuro's body was found in the street with her throat cut. According to the police report, the three had planned their attack against Safuro, with Aman leading the plan. Investigators stated that Safuro may have been attacked due to a personal grudge. Okay, so this is crazy. So, based on the reporting that I have seen, even from sources like Reuters and Al Jazeera and Vice, this woman was stabbed because of a dream that a child had.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Yes. So there was reportedly a 13-year-old girl that had a dream that this teacher committed blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad. And because of that, 3 other women have went and killed her. Now, just to be clear, some sources report that one of the women was a teacher, the other were students. Some sources report that all of them were teacher colleagues. So there is a little bit of discrepancy of clarity of the details there. But yes, that's what's being reported over a dream of a child. That's what they're saying, right?
Okay.
Now, it's well known and well established that the blasphemy allegations and accusations in Pakistan are frequently used to settle personal grudges. Like, for example, there was recently a woman in Pakistan sentenced to death, 26 years old, sentenced to death for blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad. But she says that the accuser accused her of blasphemy because she rejected his advances, right? So that's her side of the story. So there is some reporting that says that this may be due to a personal grudge, but it's also, but their story is that this originated because of a dream.
Okay, I am so confused. Who rejected whose advances?
So this was a separate story that we covered several months ago. I'm just giving an example of another blasphemy allegation.
Okay, let's not bring that in because this is confusing enough, okay? So there's 2 narratives here. One is that this is a personal grudge, and the other one is that a kid dreamed that the teacher committed blasphemy, but that's why they killed her. Why would they kill her? Because of a dream?
Because she had a dream that she committed blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad, and the Prophet Muhammad commanded her to go after her to protect his honor.
Okay, so the other people who were involved with this, why did they didn't have what they just accepted this child's dream as a commandment from Muhammad?
That's the story.
Wait a second. There is hadith on this. I think there's a saying, there's a belief in Islam that if you dream about Muhammad, it can only be Muhammad. Can somebody confirm this?
Meaning that if you see Muhammad in a dream, it's legitimate? Yeah,
that it's actually him. I heard that somewhere. Maybe that's why they believed her, because that's why an authentic hadith repeated by a quote said, "Whoever sees me in a dream actually sees me in truth." It is true. An authentic hadith reported by Abu. So this might make, okay. I don't know if this is why they accepted her accusation, but there is an authentic hadith by Abu Qatada quotes the Prophet as saying, "Whoever sees me in a dream actually sees me in truth." This is related by Al-Bukhari and Muslim, so by both of the main sources of authentic Islamic hadith.
Wow.
And a different hadith reported by Abu Huraira quotes the Prophet saying, "Whoever sees me in a dream will see me when awake." Okay, so I don't know if this is the explanation for it, because I'm like, okay, this child saw her Muhammad in a dream commanding her to kill this person, but why would the other people be like, okay, we're going to help you do it? Well, maybe it's because, again, I don't know if this is true or not, because if she saw her Muhammad in a dream and Muhammad said this, then Muhammad literally, they believe Muhammad, it wasn't just a dream. Muhammad literally told her to take this action. So if that narrative is true, okay, but even if the second narrative is true, which they had a grudge against her, this is still about blasphemy because they were using blasphemy accusation as a cover.
Exactly. Thank you. Because it drives me crazy when people bring in this grudge aspect to things to say, no, this isn't actually Islamic. When their cover up for the whole situation or excuse to legitimize it is on the basis of Islamic attitudes and doctrines that are imbued from the text.
Yeah. So either way, it's still about blasphemy. Whether they're lying or they're telling the truth, even if they're lying, and this wasn't about her committing blasphemy, and it was about the grudge, they're trying to make an excuse for it, by saying that they had a dream about Muhammad telling us to. This is like, okay. By the way, am I being sexist to think like things are next level when a bunch of schoolgirls killed it? Like if this was men.
No, not at all. No, because this is something that's very important that I wanted to get to is that one thing that's being very much highlighted when talking about this news is how unusual it is and shocking it is to people that it was a bunch of women who went and did this. Because if you think about it, blasphemy lynchings are a form of honor killing. And they're a form of honor culture. And this is something that is usually taken upon and demonstrated, materialized, manifested by men, enacted upon by men. And so the fact that it was a bunch of young women who went and did this act has shocked people. It's highly rare and highly unusual.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I don't want to be accused of sexism against men here, but it's genuinely true that men are just more violent because of testosterone and stuff like that. Okay, so this is next level. Like but yeah, the fact that even in Pakistan, even women are feeling like going stabby because of blasphemy accusation. Like Pakistan is just getting this going. Like, by the way, this is not us like using anecdotal evidence to describe how bad Pakistan is becoming for people who are new here. The trends, the statistical trends, is absolutely like this is like not a one-off thing. This is Pakistan is turning into. I mean, it is a hellhole. Do you want to highlight some star comments and read some star comments?
Yeah, let's look at this. Murtad Skeptic is saying some Muslims contest to that, meaning the whole dream hadith situation. So some Muslims contest to that by either saying that it's only true of people who actually knew how he looked, since you can't actually see his real person if you didn't know how he looks. So that's the way in which they kind of contest or
okay, but that doesn't
the dream of the prophet.
Okay, I think the people who are trying to discredit it is because they know how how destructive that belief is, right? Because this way anybody could just come and claim that Muhammad just because I had a dream about Muhammad and it has to be Muhammad since it was in my dream and he told me this. So all of a sudden every single claim about Muhammad telling you something in a dream should be taken seriously because it was verbatim word of Muhammad. So I think like people are trying to find ways to be like, okay, this can't be right? But I mean the hadith itself doesn't have those clarification.
Those conditions.
Yeah. So I don't know how you're gonna.
And Bulbul is saying, if you believe that God ordered Muhammad to marry a 6-year-old in a dream, it becomes easy to give such importance to dreams. Very good point, Bulbul. Saying this was a means through which Muhammad himself received messages.
Okay, but here's the thing: you can never say that God spoke to you in Islam because that would, if you say God spoke to you in a dream in Islam, then you're claiming prophethood. And if you claim prophethood, you're claiming that Muhammad was not the seal of the prophets. He was not the last prophet. And that by itself is punishable by death. Okay. I mean, in some places, I mean, Islamically, it should, they think I'm trying to not get banned by YouTube because YouTube might think I'm saying it. Okay. So just know what I'm saying. Okay. I'm not saying right now people are making it punishable by death, but if it was an Islamic state, it would be punishable by death. So that's why you could claim that Muhammad said something to me rather than saying God said something to me. But anyways, let's read the last one.
Ibn Qayyim is saying, blasphemy public lynchings are still very rare in Pakistan, about 4 per year in a country of over 200 million people. Okay, but statistically and empirically, it is still way higher than every other country on the planet. And that's only just
Yeah.
talking about lynchings. When you also bring into the fact of allegations, those who are being accused, those who are actually charged, last time I looked, and it's gotten so much worse since 2019. The last statistics that we have that really collects and systematically organizes this data, the end of that data was collected towards 2018, 2019. It's gotten so much worse since then. It's I think the next country with these incidents, it's like half as much, and it's Iran. So in terms of the issue of blasphemy allegations specifically, which is a specific type of crime, a specific type of reason for murder, it blows every other country out the water. So it's worth discussing. And people say, well, this is a drop in the bucket in terms of the larger issues of killings in Pakistan. But it's like, this is still, in terms of the reason for these murders and killings, so much more severe than everywhere else in the world. That deserves attention.
Okay, I don't understand this comment. Blasphemy public lynchings are still very rare in Pakistan. About 4 per year in a country of 200 million. 4 a year of public lynching is insanely high. What do you like? What did you like? What is your standard? Do you want like? Do you think like 200 million? Did you think for a country of 200 million there would more? A high number would be what? Would be like 100 public lynchings per year, 4 per year in a country. You know, you're zooming at a very specific type of violence. Okay, like yes, if you if public lynching, which is such an extreme form of violence, okay, happening 4 times in a year in a country, imagine what that says about violence in general for stuff like this in Pakistan. You're talking, you know, it's almost as if I say, like, I don't know, cannibalism in Germany happens only once a year. I mean, once a year, well, the population of Germany is this many, and once a year, given that population of Germany is this much, is not very high. I mean, what do you mean it's not very high? Once a year in a country, an act of cannibalism would be astronomical. It would be incredibly high. Okay,
Wait,
I'm talking about public lynching is crazy, crazy high level of violence, and if you have to, it suggests a broader general trend of tension over blasphemy, because all of the tensions around blasphemy in Pakistan is not just met by public lynching, okay? Is accusations of blasphemy, getting arrested, getting harassed, getting beaten up, getting threats, losing your job. There's, if you add all of that together, if you look at the reports about what the situation over blasphemy cases are in Pakistan, the situation is extremely tense. It's extremely horrific. The level of the threat to safety and the level of tension that especially minorities are living under in Pakistan, and 4 public lynchings every year suggests a broader, a more general problem surrounding these issues in Pakistan beyond just the public lynchings themselves. But go on.
We really need to move to the next news.
Okay.
Because you have your meeting and we have a lot more news to cover.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we need to be quick.
Okay, sorry about that. But was that my point clear? Like, did I?
Yeah, and then he brings up, how it's much higher in India with public mob lynchings. Well, you have to understand that blasphemy is a subsection of public mob lynchings, right? So there's so many issues of mob violence in Pakistan that we can't even cover, particularly against Hindu children. It happens so frequently that we can't even cover it. So like I was saying, this is a very, very specific subset of that larger issue that you're
just really quickly. And you say, yeah, there are bigger issues in Pakistan than blasphemy. Okay, like we don't, it's
Armin.
as if okay, sorry. We can talk about things that are not the biggest problem, okay? As long as they are a problem. Okay. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes, we can.
Okay, next news.
Next news. The Pope finally gives an apology for Canadian Indigenous residential schools. On April 1st, the Catholic Church an official apology after years
wait.
of
Go back a
muted
little bit.
responses.
You got cut.
Okay. The Pope finally gives an apology for Canadian Indigenous residential schools. On April 1st, the Catholic Church finally issued an official apology after years of muted responses to calls from Canadian Indigenous leaders. The Pope was addressing a delegate of survivors, which included members of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit community members. The apology came after multiple Canadian delegates met with Vatican officials and the Pope the Pope to express their demand for an apology. In 2015, Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission declared that the residential school system was a cultural genocide, which operated from 1883 to 1996. Catholic institutions ran more than 2/3 of those residential schools. The New York Times reported that the commission claimed that, quote, at least 4,100 students died while attending the schools, many from mistreatment, neglect, others from disease or accident. In most of those cases, the families were not notified. The Pope has plans to visit Canada and issue another apology. He said he intends to travel to Canada where he, quote, would be better able to express his closeness.
After how many years? 200 years?
I mean, it first started in 1883.
Okay. So I don't want people to like congratulate the Vatican for doing this. I want people to focus on the fact that they did this horrific thing and they couldn't even, not only they wouldn't address it, not only they wouldn't fix it, not only they wouldn't condemn it, not only they wouldn't try to find justice for the victims, they wouldn't even apologize for it. They wouldn't even go as far as apologizing for it. It took this much something so easy. Even this Pope who's supposed to be like, I don't know, more progressive, like the first thing they should have done was like, oh my God, this is horrible. This is like, we apologize, we condemn this. Like even for something simple like that, they had to be pressured into it. Okay, they don't deserve any congratulations or, the fact that they couldn't just do this on their own and they have their arms have to be twisted to do something so obvious. That's what you should be highlighting. Okay, and now that they're apologizing, I hope nobody think like, okay, we got what we wanted. The entire, all the victims of the Catholic Church is more than enough to completely dissolve everything that is the Vatican and sell all their assets. It's not, all of their assets is not going to be nearly enough to compensate, to even begin to compensate some of a fraction of the victims that the Vatican Church has, right? So the mere existence of the Vatican Church is already way beyond acceptable, like after all they've done. So nobody should accept this apology. Nobody should congratulate them for this. You should be demanding for the whole thing to be torn apart, everything that they own to be sold and given to the victims for the past, I don't know, ever of what.
Yeah. Here's a little bit more of his statement. Quote, I feel shame, sorrow and shame for the role that a number of Catholics, just a number of Catholics, particularly those with educational responsibilities, have had in all these things that wounded you, in the abuses you suffered, and then the lack of respect shown for your identity, your culture, and even your spiritual values. What I thought was incredible was that the Canadian government himself, Trudeau, put forward a strongly worded statement about the Catholic Church's lack of an apology. They've been pushing for this, the Canadian government itself, for years. If I'm remembering correctly, Trudeau even said that they might engage in criminal proceedings against the Catholic Church, particularly because of their lack of apology. Like, I was like, holy crap, it doesn't get more stronger, like, worded than that. Bobble has a very good comment saying, losing track of the crap the Pope has to routinely apologize for. Yeah.
And remember this, and then put that right next to the fact that the Vatican Church consider itself to be a source of moral authority for the entire world. And imagine how ridiculous that is. And imagine every single person who keeps telling us how we need religion to be moral. While they're busy themselves constantly apologizing for all the crimes that they committed in the name of religion.
It doesn't make sense. There's so many different levels where this like doesn't make sense. Like, why did it take so long when your statement was so mild? Like, this wasn't a statement that was seemed to be, at least, very carefully crafted by a PR firm, where we have a real detailed and specific acknowledgement of what we did. Because I feel like real apologies for something of this gravity should say specifically what we did wrong, specifically how we tried to erase your identity, make a man out of the savage, etc. But there is no specifics. It's just, I feel sorrow and shame, and we disrespected your spirituality and stuff like that. I mean, it's just like so milk toast and mild. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out when the Pope actually goes to Canada. Maybe we'll get more of kind of what I would have expected. Remains to be seen. But it's incredible that they skirted it for so long, and then when it finally came, it was like this. Yeah. Oh, and Music Guy is making a very good point, saying it shouldn't only be for Canada, to be honest. And that's true. Like, these kind of school systems were set up all across the United States as well. And these methods of cultural genocide against, I mean, people all around the world, but particularly all the way through the Americas, is just well documented and just established and known. Oh boy, this is a big comment. I don't even know if we can respond to this, Armin. Like,
PK responds to it himself in the next comment.
Okay, so Ibn Qayyim is saying, although the past actions of the Catholic Church have been disgusting, they have far more progressive values in recent years compared to Islamic and Hindu leaders. And PK responds, I think that's far more due to the pressure from the Western world than their own moral values. Yes, I completely agree.
All right. Yeah, I was going to say something similar, but because we run out of time, we will just let PK's response stand. Okay. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes, it's controversial, but we can clap for this.
Next news.
4 sentenced to death for murder of Bangladeshi secularist blogger. On March 30th, a Bangladesh court sentenced 4 men to death for the brutal killing of secular blogger Ananta Bijoy Das in 2015. Ananta was a contributor to Mukto Mona, a Bengali blog for secularists, atheists, and freethinkers. Along with Ananta, 2 other Bangladeshi secular bloggers were killed in 2015. Judge Nurul Amin B. Plab, in his verdict, said, quote, if these accused are not given exemplary punishment, people of other terrorist, violent, radical extremists, extremist ideologies will be encouraged to commit such killings, adding, quote, the main purpose behind these killings was to spread fear and apprehension among writers who wrote or spoke about liberalism, progressivism, science, and prejudice prevalent in the society through the brutality and horror of the killing. Bangladesh, a predominantly Muslim country, is a distressing place for advocates of human rights and freedom of speech. Das's brother-in-law, who was present at the verdict, called for the arrest of the remaining suspects who are still at large.
I think I'm going to have an unpopular view here. I'm against the death penalty, even when it comes to people like this. Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm not saying it based on principle. So far, all the data that we have suggests that the harm from the death penalty outweighs the benefits from it. It doesn't have the it doesn't have the effects like from, what is it called, deterrence effects that people think it has. Like, okay, so even if the studies shows that the deterrence effects of the death penalty doesn't work in countries like United States, imagine how less of an effect it has in countries where martyrdom for the sake of Islam is seen as a value, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think it would, like, and also in general, the cost, and in general, I don't want any government to have the authority to just take life unless it's for self-defense, unless it's in protection of other people's lives or something like that, like in a conflict, like in a defensive war or something like that. Like, I don't think like that right should be given to a government. I think the consequences of that is higher than the benefits. So even though, it seemed like, based on the side that we are on, we're like, this was a secular blogger, somebody that we want to defend, and and we are so aggressively against all the people who have been sentenced here. I still don't want to defend the death penalty, even for people like that. What do you think, Susanna?
No, I completely agree. I wanted to read a quote from Al Jazeera. So, Sweden-based exiled Bangladeshi journalist Tasnim Khalil condemned the capital punishment given to Das's killers. Quote, "It can never be a tool for ensuring justice. This horrible medieval practice has no place in a modern civilized society," he told Al Jazeera. However, Khalil added that by slaughtering Das and other Bangladeshi rationalists, the killers, quote, "have successfully ensured that religious issues are now a taboo topic in the country. Very few, if any, dare to speak up on religion these days, lest they too are killed while the government watches from the sideline." And I think that's really something that's very important to highlight, is that this spate of violence that happened in 2015 and a little bit in 2016 against secularists and LGBT rights activists in particular, many of these killings were associated with ISIS or by Al Qaeda, has really set Bangladesh, just like the chilling effect that it has had on the Bangladeshi society cannot be understated. It's so dangerous for people, and it has really stifled and stunted people's efforts to just push for like basic, very small bits of progressivism within their society. So it had, just the precedent that this set, I don't think we can really even articulate the effect that this had on Bangladesh. Like, these brutal killings, there were so many during 2015. And on one hand, people, are like, oh, wow, look at the government is actually taking a stand against this. But then on, the other hand, people are like, we actually don't support the death penalty under any conditions. And I don't think this actually is justice. And many of these people are still fugitives of the law. So how effective is this really? It's a really, really difficult contention. And I completely agree with everything you said about the death penalty, Armin.
Okay, really quickly, Ibn Qayyim is saying the focus should be on rehabilitation. And D was also agreeing with me. I should have read that. Bobo is saying, I agree with you, Armin. The death penalty is barbaric. And also, Eric disagrees. Eric is saying, my views on the death penalty are slowly changing. I prefer that the death penalty be implemented in certain cases. It's essential. Well, Eric, you shouldn't base this on your feeling. The data is against you. Like, you shouldn't be like, oh, I feel these people deserve it. Your goal should not be revenge or satisfying your desire of seeing people punished. Your goal should be based on what prevents the most, what strategy prevents the most amount of prevents harm the most in society and reduces the crime the most. And for you to come up with a conclusion, you should rely on data rather than whatever you're feeling. I'm not, maybe you have data, but I'm just saying. Okay, all right. Okay, so
the next news is very good. This is the best news this week, so we can give
really?
it a big clap.
Okay, next news.
Victory. Canada confirms that atheist refugees are eligible for asylum program. So I wanted to share some very exciting news that happened recently in the atheist and humanist community of Canada, and a big milestone in pushing for atheist rights in Canada. So on March 24th, Canada's Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship confirmed that atheists and other non-religious refugees are eligible for less complex claims, which is an expedited refugee application process. So in an interview with the Atheist Republic news team, Robert Hamilton, president of the Humanist Society of Humanist Ottawa and treasurer of Atheist Republic, said that the LCC, or less complex claims, had previously listed religion and religious persecution among acceptable reasons for the refugee applicant to apply for this special program. However, the policy did not specify that atheists and non-believers are part of a persecuted group. At the time, Doug Thomas, president of Secular Connection, which is a lobbyist group in Canada fighting to lobby the government for secular and atheist-related issues, and his team reached out to Marco Mendicino, who was then the Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, for clarification. But Mendicino did not respond. After getting no response, they launched a petition which gained 2,500 signatures in 90 days, but was sidelined by the 2021 snap elections. The petition was presented to the House. A new petition, reiterating these claims and the demands, was presented to the House of Commons on February 8th, 2022. The less complex claim policy now includes individuals who, quote, have chosen to be disassociated from a religious denomination or community, or those who hold no religious conviction, including non-believers. That's the actual verbiage from the
including they mention non-believers, including non-believers. Amazing. Okay, why are you not mentioning you spearheaded a campaign to make this happen?
Well, no, Armin, that's separate.
That's separate. Okay. What was that about?
So it's related, but it's separate. So there was this issue with the less complex claims policy, which the verbiage omitted, specifically talking about those who are not believers as applicable and eligible for this this special asylum processes, right? And because of this verbiage being omitted, it leaves kind of a gap or a hole where people could say, well, actually, we can't really say that you're eligible for this because you're not really explicitly included in the language, right? You're not discluded, but it's not clear. And so that was an issue with less complex claims. Secular Connection and many other atheist Canadian organizations have been pushing for this to be very clearly clarified for years now. So when the crisis in Afghanistan happened, there was a similar issue with the verbiage. So there was special refugee programs for Afghans to come to Canada. And once again, it detailed that the people are eligible on they're eligible on the basis of religious persecution, right? But once again, there was a very clear omittance of those who are persecuted on the basis of their non-belief, of their lack of belief, which, as all of us here know, is very dangerous in countries like Afghanistan and many other countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, etc. All these countries are included for the basis of religious persecution. So we were pushing the government to amend and clarify the language so that there can be no government official, no one who's conducting these refugee claims that says when someone's trying to go to the government and say, hey, I'm an atheist and I'm in danger because I live in, an Islamic country where I can be persecuted. No official can say, well, actually, you're not really included because this is for religious persecution. So it's just making it crystal clear that non-believers.
So that was what your campaign was about. You started a campaign for that one.
Yes.
And that's how, okay.
It's a similar issue, but technically different.
Okay. And you managed to get a whole bunch of very important names on that campaign, like Yasmin Mohammed, and so who else? And some other people.
I mean, it was me and a huge collection of people working together.
I know, but you got some really big names.
Steven Pinker, Lawrence Krauss.
Yeah. You got Steven Pinker and Lauren Krauss on that campaign. Like, I don't know, like, I just want people to know how active you are at that front. And that was like a major accomplishment that because you don't take time to tell people the great things you're doing behind the scene. People just think so I just wanted to use this to mention, like, Susanna is doing like some really great activism in this line. She had to get Canadian names on her campaign. So that's why she went to Steven Pinker, Lawrence Krauss, and Yasmin Mohammed. But that wasn't that. So for some people who are asking about that was related to this, but a separate issue. Okay. Do you think it's possible that the push on that campaign had any effect on this?
Possibly, I think the largest effect had to do with the Minister of Immigration changing. So what happens is, people are allowed to start these e-petitions online and petition the government to address certain issues that they find imperative to be addressed. And so what happens is when the petition reaches a certain amount of signatures, the government is mandated to address it on like the floor, to actually publicly address the demands of this petition. Now, what happened with the previous petition with Marco Mendocino as the immigration minister is that it got the right amount of signatures. It was heard on the floor, but then the minister who is mandated to respond to these petitions just never responded. There was a deadline for response. He never responded. He just let it go. And then the snap elections happen immediately. So then that means that the whole process has to be reinitiated all over again because it's a new government. And so that's what Doug Thomas at Secular Connection did, and worked with many other organizations, including the Atheist Republic Canadian community, to gather signatures, to get people behind this so that it would be heard all over again. And so this time it was successful. And people who work closely with this talk about the fact that we now have a new Minister of Immigration greatly helped because they were much more responsive to the demands of this petition this time. And Darko is bringing up a very good point, saying now they'll say, well, how do we know you're actually an atheist? So this was a huge contention with the previous petition because government officials, this is what I hear from the people who are, talking to these officials and working on this campaign really hands-on. We're saying, well, anyone can claim to be an atheist and try to get into the country based on this refugee policy. But that's BS because people do this all the time for religious claims. It is well known that ex-Muslims will claim to be Christian because they know that that's a persecuted identity that they can receive accommodations and eligibility from. So they will claim to be Christians when they're not. They're actually atheists. And that way they can also get, support from different nonprofit organizations. And so this idea that you can uniquely have this ability to falsify an atheist identity, one, is way more risky than other identities, and two, is patently false because people already do it for other things. But the barrier for proving yourself to be a Christian is much less versus being for an atheist. So when Secular Connection did the petition this time, they specifically included a part of the petition that said that humanist and atheist organizations recognized by the United Nations, like Humanists International, like Atheist Alliance International, will be providing documentation that speaks to the credibility of these atheist asylum claims, which speaks to a level of how unfair it is that, given the Constitution of the Canadian government, that atheists have a higher burden of proof than other religious groups. So this is still an issue.
Yeah, so just quickly, what it means is that, yes, it is an issue. People could lie, but it's unfair to say that this is an issue for atheists, but you have other protected groups that you're giving refugee status to them, but will they have the similar issue with those claims as well? So you can't say, like, we can't make this available to atheists because they could lie about being an atheist, while at the same time you're making this available for people who are being oppressed for being Christian or Jewish or whatever, even though this applies to them as well. So this is like, you're not being fair. Like, this is an issue across the board. It's not uniquely towards people who are claiming to be atheists. Yes, we agree that this is an issue, but you can't withhold this from atheists because or else you would have to withhold it for everybody.
Yeah. But okay. Overall, this is a huge victory because the less complex claim process allows basically refugee claims to be fast-tracked in certain areas. So this can go a huge ways to actually like saving people's lives.
Exactly. Okay, can we clap for the next news?
Well, I don't like it, but it's Atheist Republic news, so we can clap.
Well, nobody died, so we can clap it.
Yeah.
We could also clap for the cover design because you designed the cover and it's pretty good. Okay. So next news. Atheist
Republic suspended from Twitter without notice. So you guys, we've already talked about this a little bit, but now it's time to dive into it. So we have been suspended from Twitter and we don't know why. So what had happened was I was on Twitter on April 1st, and I was, because I do some research there, I go pull, things from what people are saying about different stories we're researching, etc. And I tried to interact with a tweet, like it or something. And as soon as I interacted with that tweet, I get a little pop-up at the bottom of the screen that says, "Your report has been suspended. You cannot complete that action." And I'm like, "Excuse me? Why?" And I go to check our email, and I see an email that says, "You have been suspended for violating the Twitter rules." Now, they didn't tell me what rules, they didn't tell me what policies I violated. And if anyone is familiar with how Twitter works, you know that this is fairly unusual, because when someone gets any sort of restriction against their account, or a suspension, or even, like, you are supposed to be sent an example of specifically the tweets or content that violates the Twitter community guidelines or policies, and an explanation as to which policy or community guideline it violates specifically, as an explanation to the action taken against you. We have received none of that. I immediately submitted an appeal. The appeal was within less than 24 hours, was immediately rejected. And again, the appeal did not even say what specific or what policies we violated. It just said, "You violated the Twitter rules. Learn more about the Twitter rules here." Sent me a link. No explanation. No reason why our whole account has been suspended. Atheist Republic is the largest atheist-centered Twitter account on the platform. Almost 200,000 followers. Gone. No explanation as to why. Now, this is hugely frustrating, because our Twitter account is a very important way that we reach out to current Atheist Republic members, new Atheist Republic members, how we, let people know about what we're doing, how to do outreach surrounding our work, and just gone. No longer available to us with no explanation. Now, Bulbul, who is our resident Sexy Cali lawyer, brings up a good point, saying, "Isn't this because of the Delhi High Court judgment?" Now, if you guys remember, last week we talked about the latest saga in our legal situation in India, which is the people are going after us because of various blasphemous tweets that we have. And so, because of those proceedings, the Delhi High Court ruled that certain tweets of ours had to be removed from Twitter. Now, specifically, based on the written notification that we've received from Twitter on the basis of those tweets, it says that those tweets have been blocked to an Indian audience, but they should be available everywhere else. Now, when we had those
the nature of the tweets were blasphemous against Hinduism.
The nature of the tweets were a photo that was advertising a talk that I was giving, and in the photo advertising this event, it had a little picture of Sexy Kali kissing Sita, highly blasphemous. And another one
Hindu
was
goddess.
Hindu goddess, and another one was like a Hindu holy man talking to an elderly couple, and it said something like, "Your ignorance is the source of my income." Like a pretty standard meme that just happened to be about a Hindu religious figure, but people say
ones
this
that
about
we have
religious figures. About every
faith. We have many
faith.
memes like this about Christianity and Islam, and none of this. But the Hindu one is the one that the government in India, the Delhi High Court, is coming against and pressuring Twitter to. They are pressuring Twitter to suspend our account, and as soon as this court case went through, our account got suspended. So we're just wondering if this is very likely. It could. I mean, we don't know. It could be. It's possible that it's related, but Twitter is not communicating about to us. But it's ridiculous, because none of our tweets, none of these tweets, and any other tweets violates any of Twitter's community guidelines. Like, we have been extremely careful to be within Twitter's community guidelines, and these tweets that the Daily High Court is like, it's just pictures. It's just pictures of goddesses. So, and they're just sexy, but there's not even any nudity, even though nudity is allowed on Twitter. Our depictions of Hindu goddesses do not have any nudity. But yeah, go on.
So, we had that action taken against us on the basis of those tweets. And in the latest court proceedings, our lawyers intervened and said, the court should not take action against us because the petitioners were not only trying to get these tweets removed, they were trying to get our whole account suspended. trying to force the government to force Twitter to get our whole account suspended. And our lawyers intervened and said, we should be made a party to this case. The Twitter or the Delhi High Court should not take action until we have been heard, because you are going to be taking coercive action against us potentially. And, they had a couple other things that they intervened on. And as a result of our lawyers intervening, we were allowed to become a party to this case, but it had certain conditions. Like, we have to file an affidavit, which is something I'm working on with our lawyers on right now. But also, there were other things, specifically a condition that content like that which has had action previously taken against it shall not be posted while we are still undergoing these proceedings, right? Well, that's not very clear. Offending content like that action has been taken against it. What does that mean? Does that just mean content against Hinduism because the petitioner and the judges had a particular issue with the Hinduism content? Or any offending material could be anything related to criticism of religion, depending on who the audience is. Like, that's so vague. What is the barometer for acceptable content online? If this is the new standard, nearly every atheist creator online would have to head into early retirement, because what is considered here the offending material? Is it only against Hinduism, or is it any criticism of all religion? So, right. But here's the deal. So the condition, if that kind of content is posted again, then they can go ahead and take action against us. However, so that makes me think, okay, maybe there was something that they interpreted as this offending material and went ahead and took this action against us. But the big problem is, if this is the case, even if that was the case, that's what happened, based on what's going forward in the Indian court, it should have only been blocked to the Indian audience under Section 69A of the IT laws of India. It should not be a global block, a global suspension, according to the proceedings that are currently going forward in the court. So that is some things that make me believe that it may not be related to this court proceeding. Now, maybe it's related because Twitter has just decided, I'm tired of dealing with these people. We're getting rid of them. They're gone. Who knows? We don't know. And the big problem is how opaque Twitter is being about this whole process. We have no way to figure out why this happened or how we can possibly amend it. It's also possible this happened because of mass reporting. Like, on the article that I wrote about this, I show evidence of, people, posting about their mass reporting campaigns to show how they reported and saying, thank you for taking action against, this account and improving the Twitter experience,
Yeah, look at this. People are celebrating our Twitter. A lot of Indian and Hindu accounts, like cyber, what is these Twitter accounts called? Well, the ones that are trying to mass
the Hindu IT cells.
Yeah, like they're celebrating, like, look, suspended, Atheist Republic, 136,000 followers, fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji, and they're like celebrating. Like, if you could read the comments, people are happy, people are thanking each other. This is the guy that, like, Atheist Republic account blocked on my complaint. Thank you, Twitter API. So, like, they're looking at an update. Oh, look, this person is showing that their report is, look, this is an evidence that it was in response to the people's mass reports, right?
No, and that guy is the lawyer who put the petition in front of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so
it's the same lawyer.
The lawyer that is taking our case to the Supreme Court of India, he's like bragging about the fact that he managed to take Atheist Republic's Twitter account down. And even here, I don't know, you highlight this one. Even here in our live chat, you can see, like, Hindutva, our own resident Hindutva Susanna, which is like a pro-Hindutva member. He's saying, is celebrating our Twitter account being taken down. She's commenting in the live chat and saying, no hate, but that's how karma works. So, like, basically she's saying that we got what we deserve, right? So apparently, so by the way, this is a good time for people to remember that we actually are, to be able to challenge this, our Indian lawyers are not going to be enough, because Twitter is an American company, and we're going to try to find a lawyer to basically get Twitter to respond to us. And they need to be American, and they need to be specifically somebody that is within this, has expertise and background within social media, like demanding information, demanding clarity,
internet rights,
internet rights, exactly. So we're looking for a lawyer like that. And if you guys have any contacts on Twitter or with any lawyers, please contact Susanna. Susanna, do you mind, like, putting your email on the screen. And also because we are like we need American lawyers now. American lawyers are very expensive. Like so far, we like people have donated to our legal fund $4,000, and that was really good with like helping us take these cases forward in India. Like we managed to make every dollar count. Like we have really good lawyers that are showing up in courts and fighting with the judges over. It's ridiculous the fact that we have to have lawyers and judges. The judge apparently like was they're very aggressive and against us because we just have pictures of Hindu goddesses. Like, guys, it's important that we set a precedent that this is insane, that India's court system and judicial system is being used by judges that are extremely angry with us for posting tweets about Hindu goddesses, and we're not even in India. We shouldn't be taking this lying down. Like we need to, like, if we just accept these things, these are setting new precedent for a country as big as India. You shouldn't want this to happen. Like this is supposed to be a secular country, and they're enforcing laws for things that are happening outside of their borders just because they're offended about how their goddesses are being depicted. This is insane, and they're like twisting the arm of Twitter to basically ban an entire account that we have built over the past 15 years, right? And now that we need like American lawyers, we're going to need a lot more funding to keep pushing forward our legal case, again, to make sure that that we're not taking this lying down. Like even if we fail, we just want to make sure that we put up a good fight, at least for this. And it's not just for our sake; it's for the sake of everybody who's being affected by this blasphemy laws that is being enforced outside of India's borders. And even for the sake of India, it's important to fight this as well. So this is our GoFundMe campaign that we have for our which is basically our legal fund, which is called Help Us Fight Hindutva. There's a link to this fundraiser in the description if you want to help us like challenge Twitter and challenge all these lawyers and judges that are coming against us and all these Twitter reporting campaigns against us. Please help us keep for us to continue this fight. I'm anticipating this is a fight that's going to continue for the next couple of years, and honestly, I think it's our Twitter account being lost. If we manage to like fight this and expose the situation in India because of us losing our Twitter account, if we could like in a few years, if we could bring all of this together and expose everything that has happened and make a big deal off of it and all the legal battles that we had to fight, I'm honestly thinking like losing our Twitter account, it would be worth it. Just I mean, it's a huge cost, but I think at least we are using this as a way to show the world how ridiculous this is. Like even if we lose this battle, I think like we should at least take advantage of it and show how bad and how ridiculous India's justice system has become, and how big of a lie it's becoming for India to claim that it's a secular country.
Yeah. I think really quickly, you guys can help us out a lot by if you are tweeting at Twitter support. So I gave an example of a tweet saying at Twitter support, the user at Atheist Republic has been suspended without any written notice of which policies the account supposedly violated and were cause for suspension. Please correct this. So that's an example of how we really want to cause a storm about this on Twitter itself to try to get more attention to it, try to get more outrage going. Second of all, if you have any connections at Twitter, if you work at Twitter, if a friend works at Twitter, if a friend of a friend that you know works at Twitter, please reach out to me at Susanna at atheistrepublic.com. I really need to find connections within the company to try to get this addressed more effectively. Or at least do a little poking behind the scenes to see what might have been the cause for this, because this is ridiculous.
Okay, so we have some people who the oxymoron is saying very. You want to read this? Sympathetic.
Oxymoron is saying very sympathetic about your situation, but not as hopeful about the USA case. It's a private entity allowed to be biased and consistent.
Okay, so
yes, you're true, but we can.
Yeah, we could pressure them because they are a for-profit company that they care about the pressure that you put on them. I'm not saying we have a good chance or not, but it doesn't mean
we're taking every possible avenue, and this includes avenues in India as well as the United States.
Yeah, just and we know we don't claim that they don't have a right, but we just think it's kind of like saying like if you go to a restaurant and they give you bad food and you complain about it and pressure them to make better food, you can't say, oh well, they have the right to make bad food. Yes, and you have the right to complain about it and to pressure them to give you better, create a better environment. Like you know what I mean? Like you can, it's fair. It's we're not saying it's not their right, but we can still say it's a bad policy even if it's their right. Ibn Qiyam has a response to that, which is a good response here.
Yeah, saying as a business, Twitter will make decisions based on what maximizes their bottom line. We need to share this news so it has more public attention to highlight Twitter's
Ex-
policies. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So I would really appreciate it if people could get on Twitter and stir up a little outrage about this, because that would help us a lot, draw more attention.
And also, please share this video and like this video. That would help more people see that as well. And last thing, because we want to make sure, like we said, we don't create any stereotypes about any of these things. It's really good for a reminder. PK, you want to read this one?
PK is saying, as a Hindu, I never really understood what the problem is. Like, who cares? Well, thank you, PK, for being reasonable. Love it.
Yes.
Love to see it.
And a major reminder that we have a lot of Indians and a lot of even Hindus and even some Hindutva who comment, who reach out to us, who support us, who say that this is not right, who wrongfully apologize to us. They shouldn't be apologizing to us because they're not responsible for this. But it's a good reminder that we shouldn't be just because some Hindus are offended by what we're doing and are trying all their best to basically completely remove us. You shouldn't come off from any of this with a stereotypical understanding of what Indians are like or what Hindus are like. Okay, this is not at all the case. Okay, we have India is one reason why we're doing this is because we love India, we care about India, and we used to have a giant community of supporters in India until like the Indian government cut all our access to it, right? Like they banned us from Facebook, they cut our access to India, they removed us from Twitter, our consulates are being privatized. Like they're trying to make sure. Oh, by the way, and a reminder, especially if you're in India, to subscribe to our newsletter because then you will always have access to us and that will never be removed. We will always be connected to you that way. So please make sure you subscribe to our newsletter in the description. But yeah, we love India, and we also especially love all our fans and followers in India, and we would like to one day regain access to all of them because there were about like 300,000 of them that we don't have access anymore because of our Facebook page being completely blocked in India at the request of the Indian government. So and this is not just a fight about Twitter, it's also a fight about our website has been blocked in a lot of IPs in India, our Facebook, like we've been completely cut from India even after 15 years. That was one of the major countries where we were active in, and we don't want to just accept this. Okay, India is important, and we are the largest atheist community in the world, and we don't want to be kicked out of India. We want to find our way back to India, one way or another. We'll be back in India. Okay, and we'll be back with Sexy Cali. Okay, we're not just gonna leave Sexy Cali out of this. Okay, so anyways, that was the last news. Thank you, everyone. Susanna, did you want to say anything?
Well, thank you for the support that everyone's given us thus far. I will be giving you guys as many updates as I can. In fact, I'm going to be meeting with our lawyers in less than a half an hour to discuss, some of these issues. So there's a lot we're working on behind the scenes.
Yes. Anyways, thank you everyone for supporting us. Again, please like this video, share this video, and if you can afford it, support us. Link in the description. And yep, see you guys very soon. Bye.
Bye.